Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Unify the Ninja World. Start with Awakening Mangekyo. Chapter 41. Young Master. Brother Zan. Kanako and Konan shouted in surprise when they saw Uchiha Zan bringing Makoto back. The two little ones walked with their white and tender feet and quickly jumped into Uchiha Zan's arms. After feeling the beauty of the soft body of the loli again, Uchiha Zan touched their heads and said seriously, "Okay, I have something serious to do this time." After that, the two immediately sat back on the sofa, looking at Uchiha Zan with their big watery eyes. Uchiha Zan first implanted the immortal curse seal on each of them and explained the purpose of this mark. When they seemed to understand, Uchiha Zan pointed to Uzumaki Kanako, who was wearing a little maid outfit. "Kanako, you should go with me this time." Really?" Kanako nodded subconsciously, and then showed a surprised expression. She didn't expect that Uchiha Zan would take her with him when he went out this time. Konan also looked at Uchiha Zan expectantly, and the response she got was, "Konan, I will help you get into the ninja school. You will study in the ninja school during this period and live with Kushina." Although Konan also knew that this arrangement was the best, she couldn't help showing a regretful and lost expression. At this time, Uchiha Zan reached out and gently pinched her round face that had recently become fleshy. "Konan, your potential is extraordinary, but you are too young now. Study hard and ensure your own safety. I will need you in the future." As he said this, he gently kissed Konan's forehead, causing the 6-year-old Konan to nod excitedly. Although she didn't believe that she had such great potential, Uchiha Zan said so she was willing to work hard. After giving Konan a boost, Uchiha Zan also hosted a dinner party. Before leaving tomorrow, Uchiha Shinji summoned Uchiha Zan and whispered, "When you arrive at the front line to fight Sunagakure, Shaoshuin, you must stay away from Uchiha Fugaku and the others." Uchiha Shinji's expression was particularly serious. He had received the news. Fighting on the front line until now, Uchiha Fugaku is said to have opened the 3-tomo Sharingan for a long time. In addition, there are not many hawkish members there, and Uchiha Shinji is afraid that they will harm Uchiha Zan. "I will, Grandpa Shinji." Quote. Uchiha Zan responded calmly. In fact, he didn't care about Uchiha Fugaku. If the other party really dared to attack, he would just crush him. Even if Uchiha Fugaku opened Mangekyo Sharingan during the war, this ending would not change at all. Seemingly seeing Uchiha Zan's calmness, Uchiha Shinji didn't nag anymore. Uchiha Zan, who went to the front line for the second time, was more confident and natural than before. This time, he took Uzumaki Kanako with him, not only to let her expand her worldly knowledge, but also because of her ability of Kagura Hard Eye. He anticipated that he might not be there. As long as Kanako and Makoto could cooperate well, there would be no worries about their lives. The new puppet. What happened to Sunagakure? On the way there, Uchiha Zan's biggest concern was still Sunagakure's changes. With the help of the Sage Curse Seal, he could turn himself into a chakra was transmitted. With the blessing of his chakra, the 3-person team only spent a day and a half to quickly rush to the front line where Sand Shinobi and Konaha were fighting. He did not go to the Konaha camp immediately, but prepared to observe the situation of the entire battlefield first. Sage Art Flying Art. Uchiha Zan entered Sage mode, used the Fairy Art Chakra to ignore gravity, and flew to a height of thousands of meters. Staring at the scene of the battlefield in the distance, the scene of Sand Shinobi fighting with Konaha Shinobi was all reflected in his vision. "Are you kidding? Why are you being suppressed?" The situation on the battlefield was completely different from what Uchiha Zan imagined. Sand Shinobi was controlling the clay puppet army to fight, and the battlefield was full of poisonous gas. Sunagakure has been upgraded and iterated, right? It has evolved from a wooden puppet to a clay puppet. The clay puppet alone did not surprise Uchiha Zan. He saw more than once that after a clay puppet was shattered by an explosion talisman, it was reassembled by a stream of purple chakra. Relying on his strong insight, Uchiha Zan discovered that there seemed to be something hidden in the clay puppet, which provided such a powerful rebirth experience. And the most terrifying thing is that this does not consume the operator's own chakra. In the perception of Uchiha Zan, Kagura Hard Eye Hard Net, each clay puppet contains a unique chakra. How come the breath of this chakra is a bit similar to natural energy? Uchiha Zan narrowed his eyes slightly and then slowly fell to the ground from the air. If you really want to figure it out, you still have to go to the front and catch 2 clay puppets to study. Facing these groups of clay puppets who are not afraid of life and death, it is no wonder that the battle situation on Konaha's side is urgent. Logically speaking, there should be only a few ninjas in Sunagakure who know puppetry techniques. But there are too many sand shinobi manipulating clay puppets on the battlefield. Uchiha Zan was confused with a frown, but he was not alone. After figuring out the situation on the battlefield for the time being, he brought Makoto and Kanako to the Konaha camp. One of the guards guarding the camp was particularly excited to see Uchiha Zan coming. Master Uchiha Zan, I fought with you last time, and you are finally here. Long time no see. Uchiha Zan glanced at the Konaha shinobi in front of him. He only remembered the girl because he was face blind. He had forgotten this guy a long time ago, so who knew his name? After a few words of nonsense, Uchiha Zan was led by him to the big tent in the center of the camp. This is where the Konaha coach and a group of high-level generals discussed this time. Even though he was far away, Uchiha Zan heard the quarrel coming from the other side. Why should we, the members of the Uchiha clan, be at the forefront? There is nothing we can do about it. The front line must be maintained and we cannot retreat. We have also suffered losses here. It is not just your Uchiha ninjas. Amid the arguments of the crowd, Uchiha Zan opened the curtain and walked in. For a moment, the scene was instantly silent, and everyone looked at Uchiha Zan who came in. Why are you looking at me? I'm here to eat melons. You guys continue talking. Uchiha Zan laughed happily and found an empty seat to sit down. He ignored Uchiha Toyama who was sitting at the long table and Uchiha Fugaku behind him. Seeing that Uchiha Zan did not sit on their side, Uchiha Toyama and Uchiha Fugaku looked particularly gloomy. Considering Uchiha Zan's current reputation, they did not dare to get angry. I could only curse Uchiha Zan in my heart, saying that he had absolutely no respect for the Uchiha clan. Uchiha Zan doesn't care about the stance or not, he is here only as an individual. Seeing that Uchiha Zan and Uchiha Toyama don't have a good relationship, the others are relieved. If Uchiha Zan supports them at this time, then as a rising rookie, he is still very daunting. As the head coach, Hitaki Tsukumo was relieved to see the debate on the field stop temporarily. After giving Uchiha Zan a friendly look, he took the initiative to speak up. Everyone stop, Uchiha Zan just came, don't make the atmosphere so noisy and solemn. After Hitaki Tsukumo spoke, Hyuga, Akamaiki, Nara, these members of Konaha's famous families fell silent. After everyone quieted down, Hitaki Tsukumo looked at Uchiha Zan with kindness in his eyes. The newly arrived Uchiha Zan was not like the other Uchiha clan members who were stubborn and unpleasant to look at. He was the kind of arrogant person who walked with the wind and wanted the whole world to say that he was the best. His behavior was very steady, which was not the mentality that a person of his age should have. After a flash of thought in his mind, Hitaki Tsukumo temporarily explained the situation on the front line to Uchiha Zan. It was basically the same as what Uchiha Zan had seen before. Due to the new clay puppet, the battle situation on the Konaha side went from being evenly matched at the beginning to being at a disadvantage now. This clay puppet has appeared in the past 3 months. Here is the clay puppet we captured, and the internal structure is very strange. There is a chakra core in it, which provides the clay puppet with powerful regeneration ability and vitality. Even ordinary sand shinobi, after learning to manipulate the chakra thread, can easily control such a puppet to go to the battlefield. Hitaki Tsukumo pointed to the clay puppet placed in the middle of the wooden table, and solemnly explained the power of the clay puppet again. In comparison, the poison developed by Sunagakure Chiyo is not as great as the blow brought to them by this clay puppet. And as time goes by, more and more clay puppets appear on the battlefield. Now that several months have passed, the puppets used by sand shinobi have almost been completely replaced by clay puppets. Clay puppets of this specification should be mass-produced. There should be a production line behind Sunagakure, and destroying it should be able to curb their offensive. Uchiha Zan glanced at the internal structure of the clay puppet and then proposed an idea. Seeing that Uchiha Zan hit the point, Hitaki Tsukumo immediately agreed. we also discussed this plan, but we have not yet obtained the location of the Sunagakure production line. Therefore, we need ninjas with strong perception to go to the back of Sunagakure to find and have enough strength to destroy it." After he finished speaking, Chia-zan laughed. "It seems that it was you, Hitaki, who asked the old man of third generation to call me here." The characteristics that Hitaki Sakumo mentioned were clearly about him. After Uchiha-zan said this, Hitaki Sakumo stopped pretending. "This time, I asked you, Uchiha-zan, to come here, hoping to assign this severe task to you. As long as the mission is successful, I can give you the victory of this battle." Hitaki Sakumo looked serious and frankly expressed his thoughts. Uchiha-zan, who was looking at him, responded with a relaxed look. "I believe in your character, Commander Hitaki. I can take this mission. How long is the deadline?" 5 days. The battle line can only hold out for another 5 days. Later we can only retreat to the territory of the Land of Fire. Hearing that there are only 5 days, Uchiha-zan narrowed his eyes slightly. Hitaki Sakumo's expression was also helpless. In fact, he was talking about the long term. If Sunagakure continuously invested more clay puppets, their battle line would collapse in 3 to 4 days at most. "Time is very tight. I will help you extend it." Quote. After saying that, Uchiha-zan walked out of the tent and came to the hillside very close to the battlefield alone. The dragon tattoo on his back seemed to come alive, looking up to absorb the natural energy between heaven and earth. The next second, Uchiha-zan's eyes had turned into golden dragon eyes. Sage art hyphenation point calling the wind and rain. The powerful fairy art chakra penetrates heaven and earth with Uchiha-zan as the source. The clear sky quickly darkened. Large patches of dark clouds covered the battlefield, making everyone at the scene feel uneasy. What is he going to do? Watching the changes in the sky, everyone felt suffocated and puzzled. The ninja who had participated in the battle to kill Hanzo of the Salamander in the Rain Country couldn't wait to scream. "It's Lord Uchiha-zan's lightning style. I didn't see it clearly at the beginning." Amid their noise, Uchiha-zan's eyes swept across every corner of the battlefield. The positions of the sand shinobi, Konaha shinobi, and clay puppets were all memorized in his mind. Then, turned to ashes in the thunder. Sage art Kierin Yuzan. Uchiha-zan waved the flashing lightning in his hand. In an instant, a thunderstorm that shook the world broke out between the dark clouds. Boom boom boom. The area within a radius of several kilometers was shrouded in thunder. The next moment, under the dumbfounded eyes of everyone, the ocean-like thunder and lightning gathered into huge kiirins. They broke through the clouds and fell from the sky like meteorites, roaring, killing, and running wantonly on the earth. Bang bang bang. Wherever dozens of kiirins passed, the earth was blasted into scorched earth by thunderstorms. Thousands of sand shinobi and thousands of clay puppets were crushed by kiirin in just a few breaths. Under Uchiha-zan's precise control, the roaring kiirin bypassed the Konaha ninjas without hurting them at all. In the bursting lightning, the silent black flames spread and burned quietly. The bodies of sand shinobi were burned to ashes, and no one knew it under the cover of the lightning. A few minutes later, Uchiha-zan, standing on the top of the mountain, breathed a sigh of relief. "If it weren't for Sage Mode, I really couldn't withstand the consumption of this move." Originally, thunder escaped kiirin consumed more of the lightning of nature. But this evolved version of Sage Art Lightning Style Kierin Yuzan is basically made by consuming his own fairy art chakra. Even the old cage level of the third generation probably don't have 1/10 of the chakra I have this time. And relying on the chakra I consumed, it is also recovering rapidly. Even without relying on the chakra absorbed by soul transmigration sacrifice, his chakra will be fully restored within minutes. Uchiha-zan, who continuously recovered the black flames and allowed vitality and chakra to nourish his body, quickly returned to the Konaha camp. He looked indifferently at Hitaki Sakumo and the group of dazed Konaha shinobi. "Captain Hitaki, can the mission time be adjusted to 7 days now?" Hitaki Sakumo didn't dare to say no. Hitaki Sakumo no longer wanted Uchiha-zan to do the task of destroying the rear production line. If he could use a lightning-style jutsu like this every day, the battle line would have been pushed forward. "Uchiha-zan, I don't think you have to do this mission. The lightning style consumes a lot of energy. I can't release it continuously. I need to recuperate for at least a month. Uchiha Zan interrupted directly, not giving Hatake Tsukumo a chance to speak. Now he wanted to know more about how Sunagakure got these puppets. Uchiha Zan didn't care about what was happening on the Konaha front. Looking at Uchiha Zan, who didn't seem to sweat, Hatake Tsukumo didn't know whether what he said was true or false. But Uchiha Zan had said so much, and he couldn't force him to do anything. Hatake Tsukumo had no choice but to stop talking. Uchiha Zan's eyes swept over the people around Hatake Tsukumo, including Uchiha Toyama and Fugaku, and they all lowered their heads. Faced with the strength that Uchiha Zan had just shown, they were all terrified and frightened. Uchiha Fugaku was even more terrified. He remembered what Uchiha Zan had said to him before. It was obvious that he would take back what he had done to Uchiha Zan. Uchiha Zan, who was younger than him, had become so powerful that he could not even compete with him. This made Uchiha Fugaku feel humiliated and terrified. After looking at the trembling Uchiha Fugaku for a few more times, Uchiha Zan turned his head away with contempt. He would naturally make up for what happened before, but before that, he would make Uchiha Fugaku live in fear every day forever. It would be better if you could give me 2 babies quickly. If you can awaken Mangekyo, I will gouge out all your eyes. Quote. The way Uchiha Zan looked at Uchiha Fugaku at this time was more like a sow that could give birth to piglets. He had absorbed the corpses of ordinary Uchiha members, which was most beneficial to his recovery of his pupil power. After having the idea of chakra before, Uchiha Zan wanted to try to absorb the pupil power of Mangekyo Sharingan. Uchiha Zan wanted to see what changes would happen. It was also for his future, and he was conducting experiments before absorbing the 2 Rinnegan on Nagato. Then Uchiha Zan retracted his gaze, and in front of Uchiha Fugaku, he hugged Uchiha Makoto and Kanako's slender waists, and slowly left the scene. Looking at the girl he liked, so obediently sticking to Uchiha Zan, and he was actually holding another Uzumaki girl. Looking at the 2 beauties in his arms and slowly leaving Uchiha Zan, Uchiha Fugaku was so angry that his face turned green. How could he not know that this was Uchiha Zan was provoking him? But now he didn't even have the courage to raise his head and look at the other person's back. Fear made him only dare to lower his head and humbly glance at Uchiha Zan's steps as he left. And looking at his son's disappointing appearance, Uchiha Fushan clenched his fists, his face almost twisted with anger. Fugaku, you are an elite jonin now, raise your head. Yes, yes, father. Quote. After Uchiha Fugaku repeatedly scolded him, Uchiha Fugaku dared to raise his head. Noticing that Uchiha Zan's figure had disappeared, Uchiha Fugaku breathed a sigh of relief, as if the mountain in his heart had been removed. Some people noticed Uchiha Fugaku's embarrassment, and they also knew the conflict between Uchiha Fugaku and Uchiha Zan. Seeing Uchiha Fugaku like this now, some people couldn't help laughing. What are you yelling about? Hearing the laughter, Uchiha Fugaku shouted angrily, and 3 Tomo Sharingan looked around coldly. For a while, the atmosphere on the scene was silent, but Boujiya Fugaku felt humiliated. Uchiha Fugaku's coming forward made him feel that he was being laughed at by others. Under the accumulation of emotions in his heart, he eventually turned into resentment towards Uchiha Zan. As for Uchiha Zan, he leisurely found a camp to rest for a night. When only Makoto and Kanako were left, Uchiha Zan's fingertips moved slightly. The next moment, 10 balls of iron sand wrapped with several chakra cores were electrocuted out of the ground. These were some chakra cores that he secretly collected when he crushed the clay puppet just now. Looking at the purple chakra still surging on the core, Uchiha Zan stretched out his finger and touched it lightly. Strands of purple chakra flowed into his body, making him widen his eyes. What a special chakra, it contains a more magnificent power. Purple chakra, could it be a dragon vein? Uchiha Zan felt very familiar with it from before. The fundamental reason for rejecting Hatake Tsukumo just now was that Uchiha Zan speculated that this might be a dragon vein chakra. This is the dragon vein power of the ancient country of Lulan, which can be said to be a unique energy vein nurtured by this planet. The power of the dragon vein in the original book can even allow people to travel through time and space. Comparing the time point, Uchiha Zan felt that it was also positive. If the villain and Lucian in the original book traveled through time, it would probably be during the Third World War. It's only World War II now, and why would Sunagakure create earthenware puppets with dragon vein power? If this is really the power of dragon veins, then the development of things is really beyond his expectations. He must now go to the Kingdom of Wind and search carefully to find out what happened. Why did Sunagakure, who used the power of dragon veins, have such an outrageous development? While Uchiha Zan was at a loss for words, the news that he had destroyed thousands of sand shinobi with one blow also spread to the sand shinobi camp in the rear. What? All the thousands of sand shinobi we sent to fight this time died? Check for me, what happened? In the main camp, the sand shinobi Chiyo, the commander of the shinobi front, instantly stood up and roared. The situation was originally very good, but suddenly it took a 180-degree turn. Who can withstand this? Taking a deep breath to suppress the rage in her heart, Chiyo looked at another adjutant. How many clay puppets can be sent later? They must all be sent here. Master Chiyo, you also know that we are currently only in a cooperative relationship with Lulan. Only their queen can control the power of the dragon veins. We must cooperate with her to speed up production. The adjutant paused after speaking, and then continued, now the village is ready to further expand production. I believe that the heroine behind will be obedient. I don't care what means you use. This will become the key to our Sunagakure's rise. We must make it safe. Chiyo heard what the adjutant meant, but only gave another instruction. They Sunagakure also discovered the existence of Lulan in the desert of the Wind Country by accident. Later, it was accidentally discovered in ancient books that Lulan possessed a powerful dragon vein power. After years of infiltration and control, Sunagakure used the Lulan royal family to gradually exploit the power of the dragon veins. In recent months, Sunagakure has really used the power of dragon veins. In order to prevent the dragon veins from being sealed by the sealing technique, they responded to the fear of various countries and went to destroy the Uzumaki clan. Then they stepped up the development of puppets made by the power of dragon veins, consuming a lot of manpower and financial resources, and step by step they have the current army of earthenware puppets. The earthenware puppets do not require the operator to have a solid foundation and chakra, as long as they can control the puppets to attack. The internal dragon vein chakra core will automatically supply the power requirements of the earthenware puppets. This greatly reduces the standard for using puppet technique, and the chakra core of the One-Tail puppet needs to be supplemented with the dragon vein calendar. Only they can control the earthenware puppets, and others will only get a waste even if they get it without the dragon vein power supplement. This is a natural advantage for Sunagakure, and they are also trying their best to conceal this matter. Except for a few senior executives and ninjas, almost no one knows about this. Now Sunagakure has also seized this opportunity. They want to use the clay puppets made by the power of the dragon vein to defeat Konaha village. After having the title of the first ninja village, they can occupy more fertile land. At that time, they will continue to use the clay puppet army to attack other countries. This is Sunagakure's plan. As an elder consultant of Sunagakure's senior management, Chiyo, who participated in this plan, also promoted this plan as much as possible. Especially after her grandson's parents were killed by Konaha's White Fang Hatake Sakumo, Chiyo's heart became even more crazy. She thoughtlessly invested troops on the front line, just to tear Hatake Sakumo into pieces to vent her anger. Therefore, as long as the clay puppets can be delivered continuously, Chiyo will not think about what Sunagakure will do. At the Sand Shinobi camp, after one order after another was issued. The next morning, Uchiha Zan took Makoto and Kanako to the heart of the Wind Country. As soon as they entered here, the three of them could clearly feel the change in the environment. The border of the Fire Country was still lush forests, but once they entered the Wind Country, they could see that the greening was rapidly declining. What a desolate place, it's all desert here. Makoto and Kanako sighed from the bottom of their hearts as they continued to go deeper. If they were born in such an environment, they felt that their future would be ruined. There are good and bad sides here, Uchiha Zan said with a smile, and gently placed his palm on the ground. The next moment, he shouted softly, magnet-style gold sand. One after another, dense gold sand flew out from the desolate sand. Looking at the gold sand that quickly accumulated and soon became the size of a fist, the two women stared straight at it. All All gold. The ball of gold in front of Uchiha Zan could be exchanged for at least 1,000,000 taels. Uchiha Zan was also amazed. In his perception, the entire Wind Country was full of gold mines. This situation reminded Uchiha Zan of the oil tycoons in a certain area in his previous life. It's a pity that the current modernization of Hokage ninjas has gone astray, otherwise Sunagakure would have been so rich. After muttering to himself, Uchiha Zan condensed the gold all the way and continued to move towards Sunagakure. Looking everywhere in the boundless Wind Country. How is this possible? Who knows where Lulan is? Uchiha Zan doesn't know its exact location. Instead of running around, he might as well go directly to Sunagakure to ask for it. If this matter has nothing to do with Lulan, then he can also capture Sunagakure in one fell swoop and become a hero of this battle. If it is related, then he has more room for maneuver. The power of the dragon vein is enough to allow people to travel through time and space. Uchiha Zan's heart was burning with heat. He also wanted to obtain and even control this power. Even if he couldn't use it now, what about the future? Just like the pupil power of his left eye now, although it is not enough for him to deduce blood inheritance nets, but it is uncertain in the future. The importance of the dragon vein power in his heart now is definitely among the best. It is easy to get lost in the vast Wind Country. Even Uchiha Zan, who has a map of the Wind Country, almost deviated from the route several times. After adjusting the direction several times in a row, they still successfully arrived in front of Sunagakure. Makoto, Kanako, you guys meet here, I'll go to Sunagakure. Yes, the two little ones were particularly obedient and nodded immediately. Sage Art Invisibility Technique. Uchiha Zan used the sage art that Tanaka Shinji and the others used to hide their bodies. His body gradually dissipated into the air, and finally seemed to disappear completely like a bubble. Uchiha Zan, who had the Kagura Hard Eye Hard Net to restrain his own chakra fluctuations and breath, had an even stronger invisibility than Tanaka Shinji and the others. Soon Uchiha Zan arrived in front of Sunagakure's barrier. If he entered rashly, his existence would still be exposed. But Sunagakure's sealing barrier is really rubbish. Uchiha Zan glanced at the entire barrier, and recalled the sealing techniques he had obtained from the Uzumaki clan and Tsunade before. After a brief thought, it was easy for him to break the sealing barrier in front of him. Sealing technique remove. He placed his hand on the sealing barrier, and with a low shout, he quietly tore open an entrance that could be passed by one person. He jumped in alone. Uchiha Zan then truly stepped into Sunagakure. A row of earthen buildings came into view, monotonous and desolate, looking like a poor place. Even standing in Sunagakure and breathing, Uchiha Zan could still feel the sand in the air. Kagura Hard Eyes. Hard Net. Uchiha Zan did not continue to lament the environment here, but got down to business. He spread out his hard net to perceive the entire Sunagakure, and quickly selected several beings with the strongest chakra. The one in the middle looks like a gourd with a wind on it, which should be the cage building in Sunagakure. He didn't go there right away. Uchiha Zan was going to split several shadow clone to search for the candidate. Oh my god. As for the one with the strongest chakra, Uchiha Zan was going to go there in person. He was going to find the Sunagakure high-level officials directly and pry all the truth out of them. Uchiha Zan split 3 shadow clone and flew in 4 different directions at the same time. Uchiha Zan himself went all the way and came to a mud house in the corner of Sunagakure. Once he arrived at the place, Uchiha Zan felt that he had come to the right place. 3 Jonin, 10 Chunin and 30 Genin. Such a large ninja army is guarding here, and they must be the best figures in Sunagakure. Uchiha Zan, who was not going to laugh with them, condensed a deadly white light in his hand. This was also the first time he used Dust Release in actual combat since he deduced it from the description a few months ago. Dust Release Original Realm Stripping Technique Sword. Under Uchiha Zan's powerful chakra control, the barrier of Dust Release was shaped into the shape of a long sword. Uchiha Zan swung the Dust Release long sword in his hand and suddenly rushed out from the shadows. Shave Thunder Flash Body. The explosive speed of 6 styles Shave, combined with the physical activation of Lightning Style Chakra Mode. In an instant, Uchiha Zan broke through to the extreme speed of more than 10 times the speed of sound. In the eyes of outsiders, only a black shadow and a flash of sword light could be seen. Swish. Faced with the sudden attack, the sand shinobi stationed here could not react at all. Uchiha Zan, moving at supersonic speed, slashed the dust release longsword and cut through their bodies in an instant. It was faster than a hot knife cutting butter, without a single pause. Neither the Jonin nor the Genin could react until their bodies were cut into pieces. At this moment, the figure of Uchiha Zan had appeared in front of the door of Tanomoroya. Looking at the sudden appearance of Uchiha Zan, the two Jonin guards standing at the door were just about to take action. A beam of dust release burst out from their bodies. Without giving them a chance to make a sound or move, the burst of dust release radiance instantly submerged their bodies. In the silent annihilation of dust release, the entire luxurious sand shinobi army was decomposed into atomic-sized ashes on the spot. Tisk, the lethality is really full. In anti-game terms, it means that it will cause injury and instant death if touched. If it weren't for not attracting too much attention, Uchiha Zan would not want to waste these tens of thousands of bodies. He estimated the result of the official use of dust release this time. Even if it was just used a little bit, it consumed a lot of chakra. Fortunately, my mana bar is long enough, and there is 100 healings mark spare mana bar, which is completely enough to support the consumption of dust release. The only drawback is that there is a delay in simply performing dust release, so it is much more convenient to cut through the layers after shaping. Uchiha Zan then put away the dust release sword and pushed the door into the earth house. Unlike the meeting of Sunagakure's top leaders he had expected, the interior of this earth house was very empty. In the center was a cage made of fine steel, with simple furniture and a bed inside. The cage was not imprisoned by a beast, but a young girl. She had short sandy brown hair, indigo eyes, and a tender and cute appearance. It seemed that because she had not seen the light for many years, her face was as delicate as jade porcelain, white and smooth. Her lips were thin and rosy, as tempting as sakura peaches. Noticing the appearance of Uchiha Zan, the girl immediately cast a curious look. After noticing the strange man Uchiha Zan, she did not show any vigilance or panic. BB. The corners of the girl's mouth were slightly upturned, exuding a warm and charming breath, which made people want to care and protect her. Hello, are you the new ninja who came to monitor me? The girl uttered a soft voice, revealing a sense of weakness that she was used to. Such a young girl, am I sensing it wrong? No, that's not right, she is one-tail jinchuriki. Uchiha Zan could sense the huge amount of chakra in the girl in front of him. Originally, he wanted to find a high-ranking sand shinobi, but he found a big one. Separating a strand of his mind, he continued to control Shadow Clone to search for high-ranking sand shinobi, so Uchiha Zan simply did not leave immediately. To become a 6 paths level ninja, one must either be born in the Uchiha Clan, and with pure blood, one can be 6 paths level as a minimum. If that doesn't work, one can chew a chakra fruit and ascend immediately on the spot. Or one needs to obtain 10 tails chakra, or become a 10 tails jinchuriki. It is almost impossible to cultivate to the 6 paths level honestly. Therefore, in Uchiha Zan's next plan, he is ready to get every tailed beast. It is not bad to be able to contact them in advance now. In the worst case, he can set up the Genjutsu Sharingan in advance, which will be convenient for controlling in the future. Uchiha Zan then walked slowly towards the fine steel cage and said frankly, I am not a ninja who comes to monitor you. I should be an intruder. I am glad to meet you. Hearing Uchiha Zan's identity, the girl showed a surprised expression, but the gentle smile on her face did not fade. So it is the intruder, my daughter Karura, I am glad to meet you. Karura made a sweet voice, still welcoming Uchiha Zan's appearance. Looking at the girl who was not afraid at all, Uchiha Zan raised his eyebrows slightly, and to be honest, he was a little surprised. I have stated my identity so directly, you must be scared. Walking straight to the cage, Uchiha Zan asked, aren't you afraid? Seeing Uchiha Zan ask this question, Karura stroked her chest and shook her head. I can feel your kindness, the intruder, and my intuition tells me that you will not hurt me. And it is a good thing for me to know and meet one more person. Karura responded to Uchiha Zan gently, but her words were heartbreaking. From her context and current situation, Uchiha Zan could already guess her situation. After becoming One-Tail Jinchuriki, she was imprisoned and had to live alone here. In fact, just as Uchiha Zan thought, Karura was the second One-Tail Jinchuriki to replace Fufuku. The previous Fufuku was like her, and was imprisoned after being chosen. The people of Sunagakure feared the One-Tail Jinchuriki and even called them Shukaku directly. As for the name of Karu, few people remember it. The previous Fuku died a few months ago, and she took over his identity at that time and became the new generation of One-Tail Jinchuriki. Looking at Karu in front of him, Uchiha Zan narrowed his eyes slightly. It is probably because of Sunagakure's recent changes that they replaced the One-Tail Jinchuriki in advance. Otherwise, the next One-Tail Jinchuriki should be the future Gaara. There are more and more changes. After sighing, Uchiha Zan released Dust Release in his hand. The next second, the Dust Release beam easily cut the cage, allowing him to really get close to Karu. The intruder is so powerful, even if Shukaku is rampaging, it can't break through the blockade of this cage for a while. No wonder you can get in here. Have you defeated all the guards outside? Seeing Uchiha Zan come in so easily, Karu exclaimed. As a prisoner, she knew the strength of the cage. There was a special seal on it, which was impossible for ordinary people to break through. And Uchiha Zan could do it easily, which shocked the girl who was only in her teens. It's just a trick. As for the guards outside, they are sleeping soundly. And don't call me the invader. My name is Uchiha Zan. You can call me by my name. Uchiha Zan did not hide his identity. After sitting next to Jalo, he said his name. After hearing this name, Jalo jumped up in surprise. Master Uchiha Zan, you are the legendary Konaha Thunder God. I heard that you are about the same age as me, but you look so tall. Karura moved closer to Uchiha Zan, and scanned his entire appearance with a blushing face. To be honest, this was also the first time she had such close contact with the opposite gender. After all, she was imprisoned now and couldn't even see people normally. I exercised, and your thin arms and legs are obviously malnourished. Sunagakure didn't treat you as a Jinchuriki well, and didn't even give you good food and drink. Uchiha Zan also had no obstacles and chatted with the familiar Karura. Pinching her soft face and arms, Uchiha Zan made such a complaint. Karura twisted her body in embarrassment and whispered. No, Sister Yi Kang gave me good food, but I often don't sleep well and look a little haggard. The Jinchuriki seal in Sunagakure is not as strong as that in Konaha village. Their half-baked seal will easily go out of control once the Jinchuriki is mentally unstable. Even if she sleeps normally, Shukaku may run out while she is sleeping. Even if Karura is gifted, she cannot avoid such a fate. Because of this, Karura has not slept well for several months. Her pale face and haggard figure are caused by lack of sleep. After saying this, Karura looked up at Uchiha Zan again. Lord Uchiha Zan, you are here to kill me, right? Quote. Why do you have this idea? This sentence that came out of her mouth made Uchiha Zan confused. And when she said this, Karura's expression was very natural, and she didn't seem to care about her own death. Facing Uchiha Zan's question, Karura said frankly, Lord Uchiha Zan, I heard that our Sunagakure and Konaha village had a fight before. You invaded the village and found me. Shouldn't you release One-Tail to kill me, let it run away and disturb the village? Karura's words were reasonable and logically speaking, it really had to be done this way. But Uchiha Zan shook his head, stared straight into Karura's eyes and said, Karura, you guessed wrong, I won't kill you, nor will I kill a cute girl. As for what I want to do, or I can still help you. Quote. As soon as the words fell, Mangekyo Sharingan appeared in Akiya Zan's eyes. The next moment, the pattern of Mangekyo Sharingan was reflected in Karura's pupils. Uchiha Zan's spiritual power then pulled Karura's spiritual power into her body. Pa! A crisp splashing sound. The two figures stepped on the thin water surface on the ground and appeared in a dim space. Where is this? Karura looked around curiously and subconsciously clenched the palm of Uchiha Zan beside her. She only remembered that she and Uchiha Zan looked at each other and came here in the blink of an eye. Is she under an illusion? It's not an illusion. I'll bring you to see One-Tail, who has been keeping you awake. Quote. Uchiha Zan's voice echoed in the empty space, causing Jalo to open her mouth slightly and want to say something. But the next second, a huge figure appeared in front of her. Roar! Shukaku, whose body was covered with curse marks, suddenly jumped out of the shadows with a ferocious face and roared 3 times. Ah! Kaluo, who had always remained calm and natural, was frightened and hugged Uchiha Zan's body. Seeing her hugging herself like an octopus, Uchiha Zan smiled and reached out to gently hug her in her arms. I didn't expect you to be scared. I always thought you were very brave. Uchiha Zan's voice sounded in Karu's ears, and the sense of security of being hugged tightly made her try to open her eyes. When she met Uchiha Zan's eyes and found that she was being hugged by him, Karu's pretty face blushed. I'm not very brave, I'm very afraid of Shukaku, it's so scary. She now understood that Uchiha Zan was deliberately teasing her. Karu's sight quickly shifted away and looked at the ferocious one-tail Shukaku in front of her. Karu noticed its existence, shrank in fear, and squeezed herself into Uchiha Zan's arms. After all, she was only a 12-year-old girl, and she had only seen Shukaku in her dreams before. Every time Shukaku appeared, he would scare her, which made Karu very afraid of one-tail Shukaku. At this time, Shukaku was squatting in the prison, surrounded by several ground spikes. My goodness, there is no chain. Shukaku's idea is very casual. As the embodiment of the sealing technique, Uchiha Zan can see that this sealing technique is really crude. Asterisk 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 asterisk. This sealing technique is really rubbish, no wonder it is difficult to sleep after becoming your jinchuriki, Shukaku. Uchiha Zan faced one-tail Shukaku calmly, not frightened by its appearance just now. Seeing Uchiha Zan so calm, Shukaku snorted coldly and retracted his head. Humph, Uchiha's little brat, what do you want to do by bringing this stinky woman in? Shukaku scolded Uchiha Zan and Karura in front of him in a stern voice, but his body was honest and did not move. If it was just Karura's mental power that came in, Shukaku would continue to intimidate and threaten her. But with the addition of Uchiha Zan, Shukaku felt apprehensive. The main reason is that Uchiha Zan's Mangekyo Sharingan is too scary. Shukaku dare not be too presumptuous. The Uchiha who once had these eyes beat up all the tailed beasts. Uchiha Zan, who saw Shukaku's fear, smiled. Yo-yo, there's no need to be so bad-tempered when we first meet. But I think you should be angry, because I want you, a little raccoon cat, to be quiet. Uchiha Zan's smile was very kind, but Shukaku could not smell the breath of danger. I'm not a raccoon cat, you fool. The hot-tempered Shukaku launched an attack, raised his giant hand and smashed it towards Uchiha Zan. Seeing Shukaku's giant hand smashing down, Karura screamed and closed her eyes. Bang! The roar of the sonic boom sounded in the air. Karura opened her eyes and saw a scene that she would never forget in her life. With just one punch, Uchiha Zan smashed Shukaku's giant hand. Even Shukaku himself was frightened by this scene. Little raccoon cat, you are weaker than I thought. Uchiha Zan grinned, and his expression became extremely aggressive. Bang, bang, bang. 3 shadow clones appeared beside Uchiha Zan, and immediately flashed terrifying arcs of electricity on their bodies. The shadow clone entered lightning-style chakra mode and killed the confused Shukaku at lightning speed. What a joke, I'm not weak. Uchiha Zan's contemptuous words deeply hurt Shukaku's heart, and he felt insulted when he saw the 3 shadow clones coming to kill him. Facing him, the dignified one-tail, he only released 3 shadow clones to deal with him. Are you looking down on me? Wind-style Liankong bullet, Shukaku roared, condensing a large amount of chakra in his mouth, and blasted at the 3 shadow clones that were coming to kill him. The strong impact and supersonic speed are a great threat to ordinary Jonin. But in front of 3 shadow clones that are in lightning-style chakra mode, at the same time and are using Mangekyo Sharingan, this seems not enough. So slow. The moment the words fell, a shadow clone exploded with lightning in his hand. Chidori Sharp Spear. Uchiha Zan's shadow clone changed Chidori into the shape of a spear and shot at the flying Liankong bullet at the speed of light. The two collided, and under the premise that wind style restrained lightning style, Chidori Sharp Spear was like a spear, instantly piercing the Liankong bullet. Bang! In the sound of the sonic boom, the Tiandori Sharp Energy smashed half of Shukaku's head. As a chakra aggregate, Shukaku naturally couldn't die so easily. But this horrifying scene still frightened Shukaku. It's outrageous. Why can a shadow clone like you have such strength? Something's wrong, this is very wrong. On Uchiha Zan, Shukaku recalled the fear of being dominated by Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama. The remaining two shadow clones did not stand there, and quickly condensed Rasengan in their hands. The injection of fire-style chakra made the Rasengan suddenly increase hundreds of times in size. Sage Art Super Dragon Flame Rasengan. The two shadow clones raised the Super Dragon Flame Rasengan, with a diameter of tens of meters, jumped high and smashed it towards Shukaku in front of them. Shukaku raised his tail to try to resist, but his behavior was as weak as a girl trying to mad several big men. Two Super Dragon Flame Rasengan knocked Shukaku to the ground. The scorching heat mixed with the terrifying spiral impact continued to crush Shukaku's body. During this process, the volume of the Super Dragon Flame Rasengan continued to expand until it finally exploded like a nuclear bomb. Boom! Earth coiling was flattened with waves of flames, but Karura, who was protected by Uchiha Zan, was not hurt at all. She stared at the center of the seal with sparkling eyes. Shukaku's size had shrunk several times compared to before, and there were dozens of wounds on its damaged body that were stained with flames. It didn't even have the strength to call out now, like a dying beast. Bang bang bang. The three shadow clone disappeared immediately, and Uchiha Zan looked at Karura in his arms. Karura, how long are you going to lie in my arms? Facing Uchiha Zan's smiling face, Garura's originally pale face looked delicate and pink. My lord, I'll be down right away. She quickly swung her white and tender feet and slid down from Uchiha Zan's body. Stepping on this familiar water surface, her thoughts were attracted by the weak Shukaku in front of her. Master Uchiha Zan, you are really amazing. You actually defeated Shukaku. It is a very powerful tailed beast. People in the village are very afraid of it. But isn't it too miserable? Although it often scares me, it has never really hurt me. Karura looked at Shukaku lying on the ground, amazed and sympathetic. The monster that originally frightened her has now become a dying little animal. This change has changed her mind. You are really kind-hearted, but don't worry, Shukaku will be fine. I'm holding back. Although it looks miserable now, it will recover after a while. Uchiha Zan touched Karura's hair and said with a smile. Shukaku, who was speechless, wanted to say, are you holding back? How come you sound like I'm fine now? And Karura obviously chose to believe Uchiha Zan's lies. In any case, although she felt a little pity for Shukaku, she was more disgusted and angry. The suffering she had suffered in the past, and the loneliness of being excluded as a one-tailed jinchuriki. Even though Karura herself had always maintained a good attitude, this resentment could not be said to really not exist. Therefore, Karura admired and appreciated Uchiha Zan for helping her vent her anger. Then it's time to end it, Shukaku. I only need a little bit of your chakra. Uchiha Zan walked in front of Shukaku, and the 8-pointed star Mangekyo Sharingan met Shukaku's eyes. Genjutsu Sharingan. The next moment, the pattern of Mangekyo Sharingan appeared in Shukaku's pupils. At the same time, Uchiha Zan's right eye's reincarnation sacrifice was activated. The spreading black flames devoured Shukaku's chakra. Balls of Shukaku chakra poured into the body and were quickly devoured by Uchiha Zan's cells and chakra. Uchiha Zan could quickly feel that his own chakra related to wind properties had been greatly improved. There is also a flavor of natural energy, and Sage Mode has also been strengthened to a certain extent. Uchiha Zan had an intuition in his heart that if he could obtain the chakra of all the tailed beasts, perhaps he could use his left eye reincarnation and reflection to fuse 7 types of chakra and reach the 6 paths level on his own. Perhaps the plan to collect the chakra of the tailed beasts can be advanced to an important level. There is no need to truly become a 10 tails jinchuriki. Becoming a jinchuriki is still risky after all. To put it bluntly, a 10 tails jinchuriki can also be a sacrifice for the resurrection of Otsutsuki Kagaya. Therefore, Uchiha Zan did not want to become a 10 tails jinchuriki and reach the 6 paths level in terms of priority before. Now if there is another way, he will naturally choose this path. Shukaku, see you next time. Patting Shukaku's head, Uchiha Zan looked at him like a piglet. Wait until Shukaku recovers, and then he will cut some meat. Continuously absorbing the chakra of the tailed beasts is very beneficial to the strengthening of chakra in the body. Shukaku, who had been dominated by the Mangekyo Sharingan, nodded blankly. Uchiha Zan then turned around and smiled at Karura. Okay, I have already told Shukaku that it will not bother you anymore. If you want, you can also borrow Shukaku's power. Karura's eyes widened after hearing this. She never expected that Uchiha Zan would help her solve this huge problem. The next second, the two opened their eyes in reality. Uchiha Zan's eyes were filled with joy of obtaining Shukaku chakra, while Liluo's eyes were filled with a touch of fanatical warmth. A small dragon tattoo also quietly crawled onto Karura's arm. Although One-Tail Shukaku is fine, he still has to protect Karura. If Jinchuriki dies, the tailed beast will die with him. Although it will be reborn later, who knows when and where it will be reborn. Protecting this beautiful girl, Jalo, is also a necessary condition. Jalo didn't know what Uchiha Zan was thinking. She was deeply grateful and respectful in her heart and wanted to express it. But when she was about to say thank you, a hurried girl suddenly rushed in and interrupted her. This is a girl with a bun, and her hair color is peculiar. The upper part is dark green, but the bangs on both sides of her cheeks are orange. Her white skin and petite figure show that she is about the same age as Karura. The girl, who was already anxious, saw Uchiha Zan standing in front of Karura, and her eyes suddenly became particularly sharp. Intruder, Karura, get out of the way. Wait. Before Karura finished speaking, Yi Kang rushed towards Uchiha Zan. As a ninja with the unique bloodline limit, Scorch style, of Sunagakure, she was not sent to the front line. Instead, she stayed in Sunagakure for training and became a person to take care of Karura. This was also Yi Kang's initiative. She and Karura were friends before. Considering that there are people of the same age who can take care of Karura, it should make her mentality more stable. Sunagakure did not reject Yakora's proposal. From then on, Yakora was responsible for delivering meals to Karura every day, chatting and discussing things with her. Yakora told Karura many things about the outside world. When Yakora came here today, she noticed that the guards at the door had disappeared. She hurried in and saw a strange ninja approaching and threatening Karura, so Yakora immediately launched an attack. Whoosh! 2 kunai were thrown from Yakora's hand. At the same time, a ball of real red fire quietly condensed in her palm. Scorch style oversteam kill. Yakora quickly controlled the fireball in her palm and shot it at Uchiha Zan, who was standing there. Looking at the flying Scorch style fireball, Uchiha Zan watched with interest. It's a blood limit that combines fire style and wind style. Quote, how could he not recognize this bloodline limit? The terrifying thing about Scorch style is that the energy ball similar to a fireball created by Yi Kang will evaporate the moisture in the opponent's body and turn it into a mummy once it touches the opponent's body. Even if this is ignored, the high temperature and destructive power of Scorch style itself are stronger than ordinary fire style and wind style. But Yi Kang, who is still young, obviously cannot control this force area well. Finger pistol thunder charge. Uchiha Zan simply released the impact of lightning-style chakra from his fingertips. The absolute difference in magnitude still caused the Scorch-style fireball released by Yi Kang to be shattered in one blow. Bang! The terrifying lightning, like a laser cannon-style beam, shot at Yi Kang's ear and hit the king wall behind her. The thick earth wall was penetrated by a blow, and a ray of dark sunlight shone in from outside. Gulp! The two looked at each other in silence, and the murderous aura that came to their faces made Yi Kang's body stiff. Yi Kang swallowed his saliva, his pupils shrank like a needle, and he dared not make any move. Yi Kang, who had just fought for the first time, could already feel the gap between himself and Uchiha Zan. Too strong, so strong that she could no longer deal with it. As a ninja with the blood limit of Scorch style, Yi Kang always felt that she was not weak. Even though she was only 13 years old, she could easily defeat ordinary Chunin. Her Scorch-style fireball could also cause fatal damage to Jonin if it hit them. Facing Uchiha Zan at this moment, she could not think of taking action again. Noticing that Yi Kang was scared, Uchiha Zan slightly restrained his murderous aura. His murderous aura combined with Mangekyo the Sharingan can already create an illusion-like effect on others. You are not too stupid. This is not the enemy you should deal with. Take good care of Karura. You have no right to stop me from doing what I want to do. Uchiha Zan stepped forward, gently lifted Yi Kang's white chin, and whispered in front of her. He still admired Yi Kang in front of him. In an environment like Sunagakure, she can still look so cute and tender, and her skin is so smooth and white. It can be said that it is rare. And the scorch style she possesses is also a good blood limit. Thinking of the fate that Yi Kang may experience in the future, Uchiha Zan showed a mysterious smile on his face. If one day you are desperate, maybe you can try to call my name. After leaving a sentence that Yi Kang didn't understand, Uchiha Zan waved to Karura behind him. I'm leaving first, Karura, we will meet again if there is a chance. After that, Uchiha Zan used a flashing technique and disappeared instantly. It was not until Uchiha Zan disappeared for several minutes that Yi Kang suddenly collapsed to the ground and gasped. Karura could also understand Yi Kang's loss of composure. Because she had seen Uchiha Zan suppress Shukaku, she could understand what kind of powerful ninja Yi Kang was facing just now. Yi Kang, don't worry, Lord Uchiha Zan didn't do anything to you. Karura gently comforted Yi Kang and pulled him up. Yi Kang stood up dizzy, her thoughts were still in a mess, and she was stunned when she heard Karura's words. Uchiha Zan, is he Uchiha Zan? Karura, how did you know him? Didn't he hurt you? A series of questions appeared in Yi Kang's mind. Karura's face was slightly red, and after letting Yi Kang calm down first, she slowly explained what happened just now. While they were talking, Uchiha Zan had already arrived at a Sand Shinobi high-level location. This is an office, and there is only a middle-aged man in his 40s who is handling government affairs. After taking back the shadow clone that had found here before, Jaliba Zan also knew that this person was a high-level executive of Sunagakure. Finally I found the right person this time. Wood-style silent killing technique. Uchiha Zan put his palms together, and in an instant, the chair under the Sand Shinobi executive suddenly extended wooden bars. The crazy wooden bars tied up the Sand Shinobi executive on the chair in just a breath. The Sand Shinobi executive immediately reacted to the attack, and just as he was about to use chakra to fight back, his eyes met Uchiha Zan's Mangekyo Sharingan. Illusion Sharingan. The moment they looked at each other, the Sand Shinobi executive's eyes became more and more dull. Soon his head drooped, and he was completely dominated by Uchiha Zan's hypnosis. Where did the third case cage go? How were those clay puppets made? Uchiha Zan stood in front of the Sand Shinobi high-ranking officials and asked directly. The people of Sunagakure probably didn't expect that the Sand Shinobi high-ranking officials who stayed in the village would be controlled. The third case cage went to Lulan. He wants Sunagakure to control the dragon veins. The clay puppets were made by us using the dragon vein power contained in the Lulan kingdom. Hearing this answer, Jazia Zan took a deep breath. It really involves Lulan and the power of the dragon veins. Seeing this situation, Uchiha Zan asked more in depth and carefully to get things clear. This Sand Shinobi high-ranking official is one of the few cage-level ninjas in Sunagakure, and is also a member of the Elder Advisory Group. So he is the one who knows the most about the Dragon Vein plan. After he revealed what he knew, Chen Ziazan quickly realized the problem. Could it be that my appearance caused the future time loop to not match up? This led to Sunagakure encountering the ancient country of Lulan at this node. Uchiha Zan muttered in his heart for a while, but he also understood that the situation was already very urgent. The third case cage led a Sand Shinobi team to Lulan. Once the other party completely controlled the dragon vein, who knew what chemical reaction would happen? He immediately asked the Sand Shinobi high-level officials about the route to Lulan. Then he left Sunagakure without stopping, explained the situation to Makoto, Kanako and others temporarily, and the three of them quickly rushed to their destination. In the endless desert, there is now a country with tall buildings. The Sand Shinobi troops led by the third case cage have now arrived in front of this prosperous country. Looking at the prosperous high-rise buildings in front of him, a glimmer of ambition flashed in the eyes of the third case cage. In just a few years, Lulan has developed into the prosperity and modernization it is today, which is ultimately the result of the power of the dragon veins combined with puppetry. This time, I will bring this prosperity to Sunagakure. The third cage whispered, his eyes particularly firm. They, Sunagakure, and the Lulan kingdom are essentially just a cooperative relationship. Previously, only the direct members of the Lulan royal family had the power to control the dragon veins. Therefore, their Sunagakure's early negotiations with Lulan were peaceful. After gaining the other party's trust little by little, they used the abilities of the royal family members to obtain the right to use part of the dragon vein power. However, the Lulan royal family has been wary of Sunagakure from the beginning to the end. Later, after learning that Sunagakure used the power of the dragon veins in the war, the group of Lulan royal family wanted to terminate their cooperation with Sunagakure. The third cage did not allow such a thing to happen, so he sent people to assassinate the members of the Lulan royal family. Only a 16-year-old girl, who was also a direct member of the previous generation of Lulan royal family, Sasha, was left. From the perspective of the third cage, this was a last resort. Originally, this matter could be solved by illusion manipulation, but when they were controlling the power of the dragon vein, the members of the Lulan royal family would be awakened by the power of the dragon vein. There was a mistake before, which almost caused their puppet production line here to be destroyed. One-tail jinchuriki Fenfu, who was brought here for experiments, died here. Therefore, the third cage did not dare to take risks again, but was ready to fool Sasha, a simple girl. Only by letting her fully open the dragon vein, can they, Sunagakure, fully utilize the power of the dragon vein. After entering the Lulan kingdom, the third cage came directly to the Lulan palace. Seeing that there was no one here, he immediately called the sand shinobi troops stationed here. Where is the orphan of the Lulan royal family? Where did she go? The third cage's tone was quite serious. He had repeatedly told them to keep an eye on the other party. The subordinate sand shinobi immediately replied, Lord Cage, she went to the ruins of the Lulan courtyard and said she wanted to be alone. Since the other members of the Lulan royal family died, she often went there alone. But we have sent 2 Anbu to monitor her and can bring her over at any time. Hearing this, the third cage's expression relaxed. Since she wants to relieve her sadness alone, give her some time. What is the new progress in the research on the power of dragon veins? Can the production scale of puppets be increased? The importance of Sasha to him is just a key to the dragon veins. As long as she is not dead, it doesn't matter to the third cage no matter what happens to her. So he is more concerned about the progress of the development of the power of dragon veins. Sand Shinobi led the third cage to the production line and introduced, we have found that the power of dragon veins can be converted into usable chakra. The entire Lulan kingdom has also been transformed into a fortress by us. We also found that the power of dragon veins seems to keep human cells active for a long time, and on this basis, we can even turn the human body into a puppet. As long as we can find a way to use the power of dragon veins remotely, we will definitely be able to unify the ninja world. The leading sand shinobi was getting more and more excited as he spoke. He saw the power of dragon veins with his own eyes. The third cage was also deeply attracted by it and couldn't wait to check the results. While he was inspecting the results, Uchiha Zan turned into a dragon and carried Makoto and Konaha to a place not far from the Lulan kingdom. Wow, Xuanjin, you can also turn into a dragon. Young master, the scales on your back are slippery, cold and comfortable. Makoto excitedly grabbed the dragon's whiskers and shouted wantonly. Konaha was lying on Uchiha Zan's dragon scales, twisting her body and rubbing against it. Uchiha Zan was full of black lines, because he turned into a dragon to hurry on his way. You two really think this is interesting, right? But I have to emphasize one thing, I feel it when you rub against me like this, don't move. After responding to Makoto with a low roar, Uchiha Zan turned into a golden light and faced the scorching sun. He landed in front of the Lulan kingdom with the 2 women. The 2 people who had recovered from their excitement were now staring at the prosperous country in front of them with wide eyes. What a tall building, it's more prosperous than Konaha village. Makoto and Konaha never expected that there would be such a spectacular city scene in such a barren desert. Uchiha Zan had 10,000 complaints in his heart. After all, this modern high-rise building alone was nonsense. The ability to build such a building shows that Lulan's infrastructure level is not inferior to modern ones at all. Considering that this should be caused by the development of the dragon vein, it can only be said that this modernization is a bit deformed. Makoto, Kanako, let's split into 2 teams and go to this city to collect intelligence first. Uchiha Zan immediately formulated a reconnaissance strategy and split into 2 teams to search Lulan. After all, if 3 people are together, the target is really too big. Looking at the entire Lulan kingdom, the area is definitely not small. In addition, Uchiha Zan also wants Makoto and Kanako to experience some experience. Otherwise, he would not bring them with him this time. Well, we understand. Makoto and Kanako also understood Uchiha Zan's excitement. They all nodded seriously in response, and then slipped into the Lulan minister together. Uchiha Zan was not too worried about their safety. Not to mention that the 2 of them had the immortal curse seal implanted by themselves, and secondly, Makoto's current strength is already Jonin. With the blessing of the immortal curse seal, she opened the 3-tomo Sharingan, and her strength is probably enough to fight even the elite Jonin, and cage level may be able to touch it. Kanako herself is also strong, and her sealing skills and physical skills are no less than Jonin. And her strong perception ability is enough for her to deal with most crises. If the 2 of them join forces, even if they encounter cage-level ninjas, they should have a chance to escape from them. Thinking of this, Uchiha Zan withdrew his thoughts and looked at this magnificent and mysterious country. Lulan, I didn't expect you to come at this time. Uchiha Zan whispered in his heart, and then turned into a residual shadow and jumped into the Lulan kingdom. After truly stepping into Lulan, Uchiha Zan felt like he was back in a modern city. Amid the tall buildings, people as small as ants were walking on the streets. Kagura hard eye hard net. Uchiha Zan completely let go of his perception, and in an instant, he could sense all the life and things in half of Lulan. He couldn't help but look at the land below, muttering, that special dragon vein power is under this land. While sensing the fluctuations of the dragon veins, Chen Ziazan could not sense the field puppets scattered throughout the city. The entire Lulan was covered with chakra silk threads, and clay puppets were everywhere. Some of them were integrated into the buildings, and some were disguised as sculptures and decorations. But the fluctuations of the special dragon vein power they emitted could not deceive Uchiha Zan. There is another most powerful chakra, second only to Karu Luo, and it should be the 3rd cage. Uchiha Zan's pupils slowly turned, as if he could see the 3rd cage walking in the underground factory. Sunagakure has turned Lulan into his own war fortress. I don't know to what extent they have used the power of the dragon vein. Uchiha Zan did not choose to rush directly, he still had some fear in his heart. Unlike the Go-Ba Baizu in the original book, Lulan has been transformed into a war fortress by Sunagakure. The strength of the 3rd cage is definitely not weak. If he can use the power of the dragon vein, he knows how difficult it will be to deal with. If he takes the risk to attack, he may put himself in danger. He doesn't want to alert the enemy before he is completely sure. It would be best to assassinate the 3rd cage directly and solve all the troubles later. Uchiha Zan muttered, and then thought of someone. In the original novel, the power of the dragon veins was controlled by the royal family of Lulan. If I could find a member of the royal family and ask her to seal the power of the dragon veins, I would have nothing to worry about. Sage Art Invisibility Technique. Uchiha Zan formed a seal with his palms and disappeared into the air. He shuttled between the tall buildings in an invisible manner and quickly came to the Lulan Palace. But when he really went in, he found that the fighting and silence here were ridiculous. Where are the people? Where are the people? Along the way, Uchiha Zan didn't even see a few guards guarding the gate. Did all the royal family members of Lulan die? Uchiha Zan, who had separated 5 shadow clone and searched the palace, confirmed that there was not a single royal family member. Where are they? Those guys from Sunagakure, they wouldn't have killed all the royal family members of Lulan. Uchiha Zan was speechless and had no choice but to go find Makoto and Kanako to meet up with them. If all the royal family members are really dead and no one can control the power of the dragon vein, then do something secretly and demolish all the underground factories. I don't know if the other party will have a backup plan, but we must not let Sunagakure occupy the dragon vein. The dragon vein has such a terrifying power. What will happen if Sunagakure occupies it? No matter what, he should occupy it himself, and he can't let others. Uchiha Zan took action, sensing the chakra fluctuations of Makoto and Kanako, and quickly moved towards them. Before he found the two, he saw and heard a violent explosion from a distance. Uchiha Zan immediately quickened his pace to rush over by sensing the immortal curse marks on them. When Makoto and the others entered Lulan, they did not rely on the ability of the last prophet to search for people in the palace like Uchiha Zan did. They only knew some of the inside story, so they chose the simplest way to interrogate someone. Uzumaki Kanako acted as a radar to detect whether there were any enemies nearby. The two avoided dangerous areas, and then relied on Uchiha Makoto's Sharingan to manipulate the enemies with illusions, and learned about Lulan's current situation from them bit by bit. How many years did Lulan build like this? The royal family of Lulan was assassinated some time ago, and only one woman was left. Sunagakure is still recruiting Lulan residents, and sending Sunagakure residents and ninjas to build factories underground. After they learned one question after another, Makoto and Kanako felt that a net was covering Lulan. They had heard Uchiha Zan say that Lulan had the power of dragon veins. But they did not expect that Sunagakure would use the power of dragon veins to grow to this extent. As their progress continued to deepen, when they sorted out a part of the map of Lulan, someone noticed the disappearance of Sand Cruel. Puppet ninja troops were soon sent out to search. Even though Makoto and Kanako tried their best to hide, they were eventually exposed under the siege. At this time, at the Puppet Ninja Control headquarters located underground in Lulan, a sand shinobi immediately reported the situation to the main controller Ebizo. "Elder, we found an intruder." Intruder, Ebizo, who looked like a middle-aged man with a white cloth wrapped on his head, immediately used the Dragon Vein chakra line system to connect to the Puppet Ninja troops. The next moment, Ebizo was able to see the scene over there through the sight of the clay puppet. Fire-style Great Fireball technique. Uchiha Makoto formed a seal and spit out a huge Great Fireball, which instantly exploded the nearest clay puppet. The fragments of the exploded clay puppet flew everywhere, but Makoto's expression did not relax at all. "Because more clay puppets are coming to kill us now." Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. A clay puppet opened the mechanism on its chest, and in an instant, more than 10 kunai controlled by chakra threads flew out and shot at Makoto. Makoto's pupils instantly turned into 3 Tomo Sharingan, and her pupils quickly scanned the incoming kunai. She drew out the chakra short sword on her waist, immediately dodged the kunai smoothly, and cut off the chakra thread connected to it. "Miss Makoto, be careful." Kanako's voice came from the side, and Makoto immediately turned her head to look at the clay puppet floating in the air on the left. Unlike other clay puppets, this clay puppet's hands are gun barrels. The next second, purple energy bombs shot out from the gun barrels. Moonwalk idle turn. Chakra suddenly burst out from Makoto's feet, and she rushed several meters to the right in an instant. Boom boom boom. Several purple energy bombs hit the high-rise buildings, and a series of flames exploded in an instant. Judging from the power of this catharsis, it is definitely several times more terrifying than the fireball that Makoto released earlier. Adamantine ceiling chains. Kanako, who was standing aside, did not slack off. She was just accumulating the chakra in her body before. After Makoto bought her a certain amount of time, 4 chakra chains instantly burst out from behind her. The flying chakra chains tied up all the clay puppets in front of them on the spot, making them unable to move. Makoto also took this opportunity to rush up and use the chakra short sword to make the chakra threads of the clay puppets all break. Without the control of the chakra threads, this puppet ninja army quickly collapsed and lost its combat effectiveness. A ninja from the Konaha village Uchiha Clan, and a member of the Uzumaki Clan. At this time, Ebizo, who saw Uchiha Makoto and Uzumaki Kanako clearly through the perspective of the clay puppet, narrowed his eyes. HMPH. It seems that someone in the upper echelons of Lulan has leaked the secret. Are they just these 2 girls? Impossible. Konaha must have sent someone else. Send out all the puppet ninjas nearby, and make sure to take down these 2 Konaha shinobi. Ebizo quickly realized the problem and immediately ordered a pursuit and interception. Sunagakure's layout in Lulan must not be known to Konaha. They must do their best to prevent the existence of Lulan and the Dragon Vein from being exposed before they truly defeat Konaha and win the war. Otherwise, if other ninja villages are afraid of them and there is not enough time to develop, Sunagakure will become the target of public criticism. After Ebizo gave the order, he and other sand shinobi immediately used the mechanism in the Dragon Vein control room to remotely control the puppet ninja army to surround and kill Makoto and Kanako. From the perspective of Makoto and Kanako, they barely had a breath for more than 10 seconds before the endless stream of puppet ninja troops surrounded them. Some of these puppet weapons that attacked from all directions had gun muzzles and some had claws. Each one was full of murderous aura, as if they were going to cut the two into pieces. Kanako, it seems that we are going to fight a tough battle. Makoto clenched the chakra short sword in his hand, turned his back to Kanako, and looked at the hundreds of clay puppets that surrounded him with a firm face. Kanako, with her back to Makoto, put her hands in a posture, and also looked ready to go. I won't fall behind, Ms. Makoto. As soon as the words fell, a dragon energy bomb blasted at them, and the two immediately jumped into the air, dodging the attack while counter-attacking the puppet troops in front of them. Wind-style Great Breakthrough. Fire-style Fire Dragon Technique. When the storm came out of Makoto's mouth, it was mixed with surging flames. The wind took advantage of the fire, and raised waves of flames to hit the puppet troops in front of them. Several clay puppets blocking the front were smashed in an instant, and dozens of clay puppets behind were also forced back by a blow. Kanako's side was more simple and rough, and the chakra chains behind her kept shooting out, piercing through the clay puppets one by one. She didn't stop her hand skills, and quickly condensed a huge amount of chakra on her palms. Finger Pistol 10-round gun. 10 fingers burst out with a strong impact, smashing the clay puppets in front of them like a cannonball. The two people's desperate fight did not make the situation better. Ebizo and his team, who were controlling the puppet ninja troops behind them, looked at Makoto and Kanako with contempt. In their opinion, Makoto and Kanako were just struggling to survive. Because they had always used the power of the Dragon Vein to provide energy output, they did not consume their own chakra. Controlling these clay puppets to fight them, they could fight from morning till night. Puppet Technique Dragon Vein High-Speed Regeneration. Ebizo and his team shouted, supplying a steady stream of Dragon Vein power. The next moment, the clay puppets that were smashed by Makoto and the others began to regenerate and recover rapidly. In just a few dozen seconds, the clay puppets that were originally broken into pieces were all reassembled and restored. Looking at the clay puppets that had increased to nearly 1,000, Makoto and Kanako showed desperate expressions. Even with Uchiha Zan's immortal curse seal, their chakra recovery speed was incredibly fast. But their own physical strength is limited, and they can't face such a large number of clay puppets at once. Makoto, Kanako, run away in this situation. Standing 100 meters away, he had always seen Uchiha Zan, who was now wearing a mask, and finally shouted out. He found that the two were still a little stubborn and didn't know how to fight and retreat. The two who were fighting blindly also reacted suddenly when they heard Uchiha Zan's voice. But now they have lost the chance to escape. Thousands of clay puppets surrounded them from all directions. At this moment, Ebizo and his group also noticed the appearance of Uchiha Zan. Sure enough, there are more than these two Konaha shinobi. Since they are out, let's get rid of them together. The mighty puppet ninja army immediately separated a part of them to kill Uchiha Zan. Facing the attack of this group of clay puppets, Uchiha Zan's expression remained natural. Wood-style tree world is coming. He clapped his palms, and the earth trembled in an instant. Boom! In the cracks of the collapsed ground, big trees rose from the ground. The thick tree roots danced vigorously and crushed thousands of king puppets in an instant. Makoto and Kanako also took this opportunity to run away from this place in the forest. What? Wood-style secret technique. Looking at the forest that appeared out of thin air, Ebizo stood up from his seat in an instant. Since the death of the first-generation ninja god Senju Hashirama, the wood-style secret technique has disappeared from the world. Now seeing this secret technique again, the shock to Ebizo is no less than thunder and lightning, and it just happened to be used. After the clay puppets were crushed, Ebizo's eyes also became fierce. Such a young wood-style ninja, absolutely the genius hiding in Konaha village must be killed. Ebizo was restless when he thought that the other party might grow into a terrifying existence like Senju Hashirama. He immediately ordered that all the clay puppets that could be sent should be sent. The clay puppets that were to be sent to the front line were also sent to fight. This threat must be strangled in the cradle. As a top-notch puppeteer who was as powerful as his sister Chiyo, Ebizo also focused all his attention. Puppet technique: Dragon Vein Giant Puppet. The broken clay puppets were constantly pulled up by the power of the dragon vein. In under Ebizo's exquisite puppetry skills, hundreds of clay puppets were assembled together. A giant clay puppet tens of meters high immediately broke through the shackles of the tree world and stood in the center of the city. The tall buildings next to it were half a head shorter than it. They can build Gundams so early. Looking at the giant puppet rising from the ground, Uchiha Zan was amazed. But he was shocked, but he didn't feel afraid. Instead, he wanted to try the strength of this giant puppet. At this time, under Ebizo's control, the giant puppet raised its giant fist and hammered it down. It was such a plain straight punch, but when it was swung and smashed down, the oppressive air wave it raised was like a meteorite falling from the sky. When this fist was about to hit Uchiha Zan's head, a wooden giant palm suddenly emerged from the forest and grabbed the heavy punch. What? Seeing that his attack was blocked, Ebizo's expression froze. The next moment, Uchiha Zan, with his palms together, also rose from the ground in an instant. Under his feet, a wooden golem stood up from the forest, and its body quickly grew to a height of 60 meters, no less than the minister-type puppet that gathered thousands of song clay puppets. Wood-style wooden golem jutsu. Uchiha Zan whispered in his heart, and then stood on the head of wooden golem and looked down at the giant puppet in front of him. Two huge monsters appeared in Lulan City, and the scene was like Ultraman fighting monsters. The wooden golem grabbed the fist of the giant puppet and pushed forward with his palm. The impact force that shook the mountains and mountains instantly repelled the giant puppet that was tens of meters high. Boom, boom, boom. Every time the giant puppet retreated, the ground would tremble. Thousands of meters away from the battle between the two sides, the people of Lulan, Makoto, Kanako and others felt like an earthquake. And Ebizo and others who were manipulating the giant puppet behind the scenes were not only shocked by the wooden golem, but also more afraid of it. This man must be killed, and notify the third cage immediately. Ebizo immediately ordered, and then the movement in his hand stopped. Crack, crack, crack. The earthen armor on the giant puppet was constantly opened, and densely packed weapons appeared from under its chest. The puppet's claws on both hands began to spin, turning into two huge drills and blasting at the wooden golem in front of it. Seeing the giant puppet launch a counterattack, the 60-meter-tall wooden golem instantly swung his fists and smashed. Wood-style wooden dragon technique. The wooden dragon wrapped around the wooden golem immediately came to life. The wooden dragon flew straight towards the giant puppet and bound it on the spot. The powerful restraining force squeezed the giant puppet's body, making its claws on both arms and the weapons on its body unusable. Boom! The wooden golem's iron fist smashed down immediately, and with just one blow, half of the giant puppet's body was smashed. The flying clay puppet fragments smashed into the street below, but Ebizo in the control room showed a smug smile. In Lulan, our Sunagakure puppet technique is invincible. The next moment, countless chakra threads flew out and pulled back the clay figurine fragments. The broken giant clay figurine was reassembled and quickly returned to its original appearance. Ebizo was full of pride. How could anyone be a rival to the immortal clay figurine puppet? And with the power of the dragon vein, their puppeteers can control it from such a distance, and the enemy has no qualifications to even touch them. Even if the opponent is a ninja who can use the wood-style secret technique, they can wear him out. Puppet technique: Super Dragon Vein Flame Bomb. The giant puppet opened its head, and in an instant, a giant dragon vein energy bomb condensed in front of Uchiha Zan. The erupting dragon vein energy bomb hit Uchiha Zan on top of the wooden golem, trying to blast it into pieces. Bang! The wooden golem instantly raised his hand and grabbed the energy bomb that was comparable to the tailed beast bomb. Eat it back for yourself. Uchiha Zan manipulated the wooden golem, grabbed the dragon vein energy bomb and stuffed it into the giant puppet's body. The next second, the same person's explosion erupted from the puppet's body. Boom! The flames shot up into the sky, and the impact of the explosion raised 100-meter-high smoke and dust. Tall buildings were smashed by the aftermath, and the area within 100 meters around them was razed to the ground. Avoiding the impact of the aftermath, Makoto and Kanako found a passage leading to the underground and went in directly. After going down, they found that there was a different world below. This seemed to be the ruins of a courtyard, and the sun shone from above to the lawn below. The quiet and pleasant atmosphere was completely different from the solemn scene of Lulan urbanization above. "There's someone here," Konako suddenly said, and the two of them quickly looked towards the corner. A black-haired girl appeared in front of them. The other party looked at them in fear, crouched in the corner with her head in her hands, and whispered, "Are you here to assassinate me?" Makoto and Konako were both confused. At this time, Uchiha Zan in the center of the city above, looking at the giant puppet that was reorganized again, was completely impatient. Relying on the dragon vein to provide power, this way of beating Wei Songyu will never end. And one after another clay puppets are still coming from all directions. They are constantly integrated into the giant puppet, and the giant puppet, which was originally a head shorter than the wooden golem, is forcibly raised to the same level. These clay puppets are essentially a combination of clay, dragon vein power, and puppetry. Magnet style is useful for ordinary puppets, but not for them. In this case, let's do something more ruthless. Uchiha Zan showed a cruel smile on his face, and the chakra in his body, like a vast ocean, continued to condense. Dust release. Limit stripping technique. Buzz. Under the eyes of the crowd, the translucent square barrier instantly expanded from Uchiha Zan's hand, turning into a strong light that spread in a fan shape and radiated in all directions. The giant puppet in front of him, along with the area the size of several football fields, was all covered in it. This is. Seeing this scene, Ebizo's pupils were locked, and the whole person was speechless. The next second, a terrifying explosion burst out from the barrier. Boom! Everything covered by the barrier was instantly decomposed into atomic-sized dust. Ebizo and his group in the main control room had black eyes on the spot and lost the vision of all the puppets. Dust release. Impossible, isn't that the bloodline that only Onoki has? But, that scene just now. Ebizo, who was sitting there in a daze, muttered to himself with a horrified expression. Uchiha Zan, who had performed a large-scale dust release, also felt what it meant to consume a huge amount of energy. Based on the dust release, original realm stripping technique, the range is expanded, the power is enhanced, and it is also made sustainable, but the chakra consumption is also increasing. The destructive power of dust release can be called ultimate, but as a price, it consumes a lot of chakra. No wonder 3rd Tsuchikage Onoki rarely uses dust release on a regular basis. Without a ninja of the level of Senju Hashirama or Uchiha Madara, the chakra amount is not enough to support the casual use of dust release. If a guy like Onoki uses dust release to drain himself, he can probably only release dust release of the same scale and strength as himself 10 times. Unfortunately, even if I enter Sage mode, I can't use it infinitely. Even with the 100 healings mark, I can't withstand this consumption. Otherwise, I still need to consider cutting off the dragon veins, and throw hundreds of dust releases down, and all of them will be turned into slag and ashes. Uchiha Zan breathed a sigh of relief, then jumped down from the top of the wooden golem and flew towards Makoto and Konako. On the other side, the 3rd cage heard the sound and the notification and rushed over immediately. He immediately saw Ebizo, who seemed to have aged several years. The 3rd cage, who didn't know much about the cause and effect, immediately asked Ebizo what happened. Konaha. No, is he from Konaha? He knows wood style and dust release, which seems to be stronger than Onoki. Who is he and why does he have such terrifying strength? Ebizo muttered to himself, as if he was in deep doubt. Seeing Ebizo had a frightened expression, and the 3rd cage frowned. Uchiha Zan, who fell from the ground above to the ruins of the courtyard below along the pipe, sensed Makoto and Konako among them. Is there another person's chakra fluctuation? Uchiha Zan raised his eyebrows slightly, and with a few jumps, he came to the position of the 3 people. Makoto and Konako came into view. They were sitting on both sides of a black-haired girl, and seemed to be comforting her. Noticing the appearance of Uchiha Zan, the girl immediately cast a curious look. The two looked at each other and saw each other's appearance clearly. The girl had long black and shiny hair, which was softly draped over her shoulders, flowing like a waterfall. Her brown eyes were bright and clear, revealing a sense of innocence, like a harmless deer. Her skin was white and delicate, as smooth and flawless as porcelain, and her lips were as delicate as sakura flowers, which made people involuntarily attracted to her. And her figure was slender and well-proportioned, and every detail was full of youthful vigor and vitality. Uchiha Zan roughly judged that she should be a girl of 15 or 16 years old, a few years older than herself. In the eyes of the girl, Uchiha Zan was a handsome boy of about the same age as her. Zan-jun, young master. Makoto and Kanako also called out Uchiha Zan immediately. The black-haired girl also widened her eyes and knew that this person was the companion of the two little sisters beside her. This is Miss Sasha. She was here when we saw her. She is a member of the royal family of Lulan, but it seems that she is being monitored by Sand Shinobi. Makoto waved at Uchiha Zan, called him over, and explained a little about the situation they encountered Sasha. They hid here and saw Sasha in the corner. At that time, Sasha asked if they were here to assassinate, which confused Makoto and Kanako. But who knew that two Sand Shinobi would run out from behind? After killing the two Sand Shinobi, Makoto and Kanako explained a lot, which stabilized Sasha's emotions. After listening to Makoto's explanation, Uchiha Zan also understood who Sasha was. Sasha, you should be the only direct member of the Lulan royal family. Seeing Uchiha Zan reveal her identity, Sasha nodded. I am indeed the only remaining member. My parents were assassinated not long ago, and I am the only one left alive. Sasha's voice was a little choked up at the end. Such a scene made Makoto and Kanako feel very distressed, and they couldn't help but want to comfort them. However, Sasha quickly stabilized her emotions and showed a resolute look. She looked at Uchiha Zan and asked, "You are ninjas from the outside world, right? What are you doing in Lulan?" From the forehead protectors worn by Makoto and Kanako, it can be seen that they are not from Sunagakure. We are from Konaha, and we come here to find the secret of Sunagakure's clay puppets. There is a big war outside now, and we from Konaha are the ones fighting with Sunagakure. Sand Shinobi gained an advantage with clay puppets, and we came here to solve the problem as part of our mission. Uchiha Zan explained it briefly, which immediately aroused Sasha's doubts. Is there a war going on outside? The clay puppets made by the people of Sunagakure are being used in the war. Sasha's eyes were full of disbelief. She had never heard of such a thing. In her eyes, Sunagakure was an ally who cooperated with Lulan to develop the Dragon Vein calendar. As for the clay puppets made, they were just a tool. The reason why Lulan can have the current scale of the city is due to the assistance of these clay puppets. Uchiha Zan, who saw Sasha's puzzled expression, immediately thought of what he knew. It seems that Princess Sasha, you seem to have been kept in the dark. Uchiha Zan smiled and then told some of the things he knew. He also made a bold guess, that is, the death of Lulan's royal family members may be related to Sunagakure. After your parents died, Sunagakure should have completely taken over Lulan, right? Faced with the speculation put forward by Uchiha Zan, Sasha's expression was shocked. For a while, she wanted to refute but didn't know how to refute. She was quick-witted and noticed many problems with Sunagakure after her parents died. It was just because she hadn't jumped out of it before that she didn't think about that aspect. But after being pointed out by Uchiha Zan, Sasha couldn't help but feel a panic in her heart. Makoto, who understood the whole story, stared at Sasha and asked in a strange way, since only Sasha and her family have the ability to control the Dragon Vein, why didn't Sunagakure kill her long ago? She said this very bluntly, but she had to say it. Before Uchiha Zan could speak, Sasha herself responded in a low voice. The power of the Dragon Vein has not been fully opened yet. They should still need me to open the Dragon Vein and control it. Sasha's heart was at the bottom of the valley at this moment. She could already imagine why Sunagakure kept her. Seeing Sasha so depressed, Kanako went up and gave her a hug. Miss Sasha, I understand your sadness. We need to cheer up now, you can't let your parents down. Kanako's voice was very firm, and she was not without hatred in her heart. She hated Sunagakure, Iwagakure, and even Konaha. From Uchiha Zan, she knew why the Uzumaki clan was besieged. She knew that she had to do something, and in the face of sufficient power, she couldn't let herself collapse. Facing Kanako's firm eyes, Sasha's expression was obviously much more cheered up. I also think Sasha you have to cheer up, because there is no time for you to continue chatting later. Uchiha Zan turned and looked behind, and a sand shinobi army had already come. They manipulated the clay puppets to kill towards the ruins of the courtyard, but when they passed through the courtyard passage, the king puppet instantly disintegrated. What's going on? The sand shinobi in the lead were all confused, and they didn't know why. The power of the dragon vein cannot reach here. Quote. Sasha stood up and explained the reason. She herself didn't quite understand the principle, but she knew that this courtyard could block the dragon vein. Uchiha Zan caught the wave of the dragon vein power being dispelled just now. There should be a sealing technique under the ruins of this courtyard. It is probably a sealing technique unique to the Lulan royal family, targeting the dragon vein. The sand shinobi who lost their clay puppets looked at each other at this moment. Since the performance of clay puppets is dozens of times that of ordinary wooden puppets, they have all abandoned ordinary puppets. This caused them to be unable to take out new puppets for a while. But it is impossible to retreat after discovering the enemy. There is an order from above to keep an eye on Sasha. The sand shinobi troops hesitated for a while, and finally ran towards Uchiha Zan together. Chapter 51. Even though they lost their puppets, their strength was reduced by half. But they were also the elites among the sand shinobi, and they had an absolute advantage in numbers. 15-3, the advantage is mine. Quote. Quote. The sand shinobi elite Jonin, who was in the lead, had just formed a seal with his hands when Uchiha Zan gently squeezed them through the air. Magnet-style sand iron prison burial. Instantly, a large amount of sand iron surged out from under their feet, instantly clinging to their bodies, locking them in place. The man-eating black flames immediately burst out, burning all the sand shinobi to ashes in front of everyone. The endless chakra and vitality were transported into Uchiha Zan's body, making him close his eyes comfortably. Looking at the scene of the sand shinobi struggling to death, Sasha covered her mouth in horror. Noticing the calm expressions of Makoto and Kanako, Sasha tried not to make a sound. 0. Originally, her impression of Uchiha Zan was that he was a sunny and handsome boy. But on top of this sunshine, it seems that there is also a terrifying evil spirit. Only 10 seconds later, 15 sand shinobi were completely turned into ashes and dissipated in front of everyone. Uchiha Zan, who dealt with this group of sand shinobi, had a calm face. There are no ninjas with bloodline limits here, so he can't get too much wool. And now his strength is completely above them. Therefore, the benefits brought to him by this group of sand shinobi are not much. As if nothing happened, Uchiha Zan patted the dust on the corner of his clothes and said, "It seems that this place is not safe either. Let's go somewhere else to talk." Yeah. Looking at Uchiha Zan, who just easily killed more than a dozen sand shinobi, how dare Sasha raise any objections? Several people immediately left the ruins of the courtyard, avoiding the crowd and sand shinobi, and came to an uninhabited corner. Uchiha Zan didn't waste any words and directly explained his ideas to Sasha. The best solution now is for Sasha to cut off the power of the dragon vein to prevent Sunagakure from using it to resist. Later, Uchiha Zan will personally go into battle and give them a wave of experience. If the plan doesn't go well, then I can only use force. Uchiha Zan added a light-hearted remark at the end, but it made Sasha sweat. Because she saw the ruins of the destruction in the center of Lulan, which was left after Uchiha Zan's battle. She couldn't imagine what would happen to Lulan if Uchiha Zan and Sunagakure's people went head-on. I'm afraid that the entire Lulan might be wiped out from this world. And in the conversation with Uchiha Zan, Sasha knew clearly that he couldn't care about the so-called people of Lulan. Hidden under this sunny and handsome appearance is an absolutely terrifying killer. Sasha felt so much pressure for the first time. She not only had to save Lulan from Sunagakure, but also had to save Lulan from Uchiha. Her brain was also active, and she immediately began to look for the people who built the underground factory as the heir to the Queen of Lulan. Sasha wanted to know the information of the underground factory map from them. In this way, if we want to cut off the source of the dragon vein, we don't have to waste time looking for it. While they were busy, the third cage also checked the information with the awakened Ebizo. A girl from the Uchiha clan and a girl from the Uzumaki clan invaded Lulan and may have discovered some of our plans. There was also an unknown masked ninja who rescued them just now, suspected to be a ninja from Konaha. But he can perform wood-style secret technique and bloodline elimination dust release. Ebizo, you mean this, right? Quote. The third cage sorted out the information and asked solemnly. Ebizo, who was exhausted, nodded weakly. Lord Cage, we must find them. There is also news from below that Princess Sasha was kidnapped by that group of people. It's obvious that they found something, and the target is probably the Dragon Vein. Once they seal the power of the Dragon Vein, Sunagakure will be finished. Without the support of the Dragon Vein power, Sunagakure is no match for Konaha. Ebizo knows very well that the Dragon Vein is their lifeblood now. The third cage nodded slightly, and he now knows this very well. Looking back at the screen, the scene of Uchiha Zan controlling the wooden golem to fight the giant puppet, even he felt a sense of powerlessness. With the blood limit, magnet style, his strength is not weak in the cage level. If Hanzo of the salamander is not poisonous, the third cage is definitely far superior to the opponent. But even so, his strength is not at the same level as the battle in the picture. Unoki's dust style combined with Senju Hashirama's wood style. How can such a monster exist? Muttering to himself, the third cage, eyes flickering, brows furrowed. If he were to fight, he would have no confidence in winning. How could he fight when they were not in the same weight class? Seeing the third cage's concerns, Ebizo said, Lord Cage, you don't have to worry so much. We have developed the latest technology of dragon veins. As he spoke, Ebizo touched his chest lightly, and his body was torn into pieces in an instant. If you look closely, you will find that the torn bodies are all made of king puppets. What is this? The third cage widened his eyes and looked at the scene in front of him in disbelief. Ebizo revealed the core on his chest and explained, this is the ultimate puppet technique dragon vein puppetization that we have developed by combining puppetry with the power of dragon veins. With the blessing of the power of dragon veins, we found that consciousness can be stored in a core. As long as the core is not destroyed, it can be replaced. Quote. As he spoke, Ebizo's split body reorganized and transformed. In front of the third cage, the human hand instantly turned into a sharp scimitar, and then quickly turned into a claw, a drill, a gun muzzle. After the puppet body is transformed, it can be deformed and reorganized at will. In Lulan, there is a continuous supply of dragon vein power, and my chakra is unlimited. As long as my soul core is stored in a safe place and the puppet body is driven to move, we don't need to fear the decomposition ability of dust release. The shocked third cage quickly raised a surprised smile. Even before he saw it with his own eyes, he couldn't imagine that the power of dragon veins could be used to such an extent. Good. If it can be popularized, we will create an immortal army. He patted Ebizo's body in front of him and couldn't help but praise him. Ebizo immediately returned to his original form and whispered to the third cage, Lord Cage, this technology is currently flawed. The soul core must be supported by the chakra of a cage-level ninja to maintain its activity. Therefore, I am the only one who has become a puppet now. Quote. The third cage's expression froze, but he soon stopped talking. Now he can't wait to become a puppet himself. Although the price is to lose the human body, the strength gained in return is definitely worth it if Yamato doesn't die. In just one day, the third cage quickly performed the dragon vein puppetization under Ebizo's arrangement. With Ebizo's personal experiment, the subsequent progress of the third cage can be said to be smooth. At the same time, Uchiha Zan and his team also obtained the complex topographic map of the underground factory and confirmed the location of the source of the dragon vein. Well, I was on the road yesterday and it was already afternoon when I arrived in Lulan. I also fought a hard battle. It's really comfortable to take a good bath and have a good sleep. Yes, Miss Makoto, but it's also thanks to the wooden house built by the young master. Makoto and Kanako woke up from their sleep with a peaceful smile on their faces. Hearing their voices, Uchiha Zan, who was sleeping in the middle of them, also opened his sleepy eyes. How could he not be tired? After being busy for so long, he finally had a good sleep. Hiss. Uchiha Zan sucked Makoto and Kanako beside him like sucking a cat. After causing them to push and shove him twice, he was completely awake. To be honest, he felt a little regretful. Without Tsunade's fleshy pillow, he couldn't sleep comfortably. Before, he could at least hold something in his mouth when he woke up early in the morning. Although there was no milky fragrance like Tsunade, the fragrance of Makoto and Kanako was also very good. The delicate body was not as soft and dense as Tsunade, but the skin that was so soft that it could be blown was also very attractive. If he didn't know that he was in a hurry, Guiji Miexuan might have to let them play the doctor game with him. Should we set off? Sasha, who was sleeping on the other bed, blushed and only half of her head was exposed when she looked at the threesome scene over there. When she spoke, her sight was frequently attracted by Uchiha Zan's stylish figure and charming smile. But the next moment, the information that Uchiha Zan was only 12 years old emerged in her mind. She only learned about this situation last night. She never expected that Uchiha Zan, who was as tall as her, was only 12 years old. Looking back, he was already a very mature, handsome boy. But this maturity did not refer to Uchiha Zan's appearance, but to Sasha looking at the high tent. Sasha was extremely embarrassed and her mind was completely confused. Uchiha Zan, who heard her voice, also stood up from the bed. When she came down, Uchiha Zan asked casually, "Well, it's better to solve the problem today. How are you adapting to the immortal curse I gave you?" Hearing his question, Sasha immediately responded, "I can already use the chakra short sword and 3-body technique." "That's fine. I will let Makoto and Kanako protect you in other aspects." Uchiha Zan nodded with satisfaction. After all, Sasha was not a ninja before. It's good to have this effect after just a few hours of adaptation. The four of them ate breakfast together, and briefly repeated their plan. "I will first attract the attention of the Sunagakure ninjas and try to hold back the main force. After that, I will send out a few shadow clones to follow you and protect Sasha with you. Sasha, you have to cut off and seal the source of the dragon vein as much as possible under our protection." It is not difficult for Uchiha Zan to hold back a few people, but the difficulty lies with Sasha and the others. Therefore, Uchiha Zan is still prepared to send out a few shadow clones, and then he will control the clones to protect them. As long as the power of the dragon vein is sealed by Sasha, Uchiha Zan does not believe that the people of Sunagakure can stir up any waves. Anyway, in Lulan, his information will not be spread so quickly. There is no need to deliberately conceal his strength for fear of being targeted by Uchiha Madara and Black Zetsu. After he repeated the plan, Sasha, Makoto, Kanako and the others immediately said that it was totally fine. Sasha tightly grasped the chakra short sword in his hand, his eyes were particularly firm. After he was ready, Uchiha Zan clasped his palms together. Wood-style wood clone. One by one, wood clone in the shape of Uchiha Zan grew out of his body and then quickly fell to the ground. Compared with ordinary shadow clone, wood clone made by wood style can store more chakra. Its own hardness is also far better than shadow clone, and it will not be easily removed by damage. Let's go. As soon as the voice fell, Uchiha Zan rushed out of the wooden house alone. Makoto, Kanako, Sasha and the 4 wood clones also rushed in different directions together. Their target is the source of the dragon vein in Lulan's underground factory. After getting the corresponding map, Sasha realized that the source of the dragon vein was under the ruins of the courtyard. No wonder her mother often took her to the ruins of the courtyard. Before that, her parents had not had time to tell her this information. Uchiha Zan, who had come to the center of Lulan again, felt a sense of pride in his heart as he flew in the air. "I have to carry a bag of rice. Well, I don't have Rinnegan yet, so I can't come to Shinra Tensei to bring pain to the world. But I can also bring you pain in another way. Lulan's urbanization is too serious, there should be more green plants here." Uchiha Zan clasped his hands together, and his pupils turned golden in an instant. Sage art wood style flower tree world is coming. Boom, boom, the earth trembled, and the whole Lulan seemed to have an earthquake. In the eyes of everyone's fear, vines spread from the center of the city at an alarming speed. Buildings were entangled by vines, and the green plants that spread like a vast ocean submerged the entire Lulan. If you look at Lulan from the outside at this moment, you will find that it has become an oasis. Dense vines also quickly entangled, tying up every Lulan resident and sand shinobi. Huge flowers grew from the sea of trees, releasing rich pollen. People who smelled the pollen fell one after another, ordinary people, genin, chunin, jonin, without exception. Makoto, Kanako, Sasha and others who possessed the Uchiha Zan immortal curse seal could ignore the effect of pollen. All obstacles that prevented Sasha and others from moving forward can be said to have disappeared. There were still 2 people who were not knocked unconscious by the effect of pollen, and they were the puppetized Ebizo and third cage. The enemy's attack has begun, and this monster has occupied the entire Lulan with wood style in an instant. Ebizo was also shocked by the scene in front of him. He couldn't imagine how much chakra Uchiha Zan had. Do you have the power of the dragon vein, or do we have the power of the dragon vein? Why do you feel that you alone can match the power provided by the dragon vein? HMPH. We must eradicate this monster. The puppetized third cage clenched his fists, feeling the changes in himself, with a confident look on his face. Freed from the constraints of his body, he has never felt so happy. The unlimited supply of chakra makes the strength of his magnet style soar. Therefore, the third cage has the confidence to compete with monsters like Uchiha Zan. Ebizo and the third cage place the soul core deep in the underground factory, and then control the 2 puppet bodies to fly to the ground. Bang bang. After 2 explosions, Ebizo and the third cage penetrated the ceiling blocked by the tree trunks and came to the buildings of Lulan. Ebizo had only seen the scene above through the puppet before. This time, the third cage saw it with his own eyes and was really shocked. A country that occupies a large area in the desert. They Sunagakure cooperated with Lulan and used puppets to build this high-rise building. But that monster is just a wood style, but it actually covers the entire country. If it were me who had not been puppetized, I'm afraid I wouldn't have even a 1% chance of winning. And Ebizo looked at Uchiha Zan, who was standing in the middle of the sea of flowers and trees, like a god, and he couldn't help feeling fear in his heart. The puppetry he had tried his best before was not defeated by the person in front of him after all. This time, he was unsure about the alliance with the third cage. Lord Cage, can we win? After a moment of silence, the third cage finally showed a confident look on his face. We will win. After the words fell, Ebizo felt at ease. What are these 2 guys talking about? Uchiha Zan noticed Ebizo and the third cage flying in the air in the distance. By reading lips, he seemed to hear something like, we will win. What the hell, Satoru possessed? These 2 old guys. Their bodies feel different. Uchiha Zan's thoughts flowed in his mind and he quickly came to a conclusion. The possibility he had expected appeared. They really used the dragon vein to turn themselves into puppets. But think about it, in the original work, a Sunagakure rebel could do it, but now it's the entire Sunagakure. He closed his palms, and the thick vines spreading on the ground instantly shot out and tied up the 2 people in the air. Puppet technique dragon vein puppet. When Ebizo saw the vines coming, he immediately shot out countless chakra threads from his body. One after another, clay puppets, even parts of high-rise buildings, gathered towards him. A giant puppet nearly 100 meters high stood on the battlefield again. Puppet technique spinning blade slash. More than a dozen huge spinning blades were assembled on the giant puppet's body, and then they spun at high speed. The flying thick vines were easily chopped into pieces. The rolled-up vacuum slash cut through the thick vines on the ground, and blasted towards Uchiha Zan in the distance like a storm. Wood-style Vajra calling wood. Dozens of hard wood extended from the ground and blasted into the air, colliding with the flying vacuum slash. Bang, bang, bang. The sound of the sonic boom resounded endlessly, and the layers of air waves stirred the corners of Uchiha Zan's clothes. Uchiha Zan narrowed his eyes and looked coldly at the giant puppet controlled by Ebizo. He was tired of fighting with such an infinitely regenerating Gundam, which would only waste his time. Wood-style laughing Buddha Jutsu. Boom. As the ground trembled, wooden giant hands broke out of the ground, each of which was half the size of a giant puppet. The giant hands that attacked from all directions in a short period of time did not give Ebizo any chance to react. He only controlled the giant puppet to cut off a few giant hands, and was covered by hundreds of giant hands that followed. His limbs were fixed by the giant hands, and his body was also pinched tightly by the giant hands and could not move. Even though Ebizo tried his best to use the power of the dragon veins to break free, he was powerless. Seeing that Ebizo was forcibly suppressed and subdued after only 2 moves, the third case was shocked. He was originally planning to look for an opportunity, but now he had to go alone. The panic was fleeting, and the endless power of the dragon veins made the third case full of confidence. Now he is in Lulan, that is invincible. Immortal, infinite chakra. Who else can be his opponent? Magnet-style sand iron waves. The third case formed a seal with his palms, and in an instant, he summoned sand iron like a raging wave out of thin air. Many more sand iron flew up from the ground, and continuously gathered into the waves. And this terrifying number of sand iron waves spun rapidly. A sand iron tornado that went through the sky and the earth appeared in the center of Lulan. Ha ha ha, die under this sand iron tornado. The third case couldn't help but laugh. If he didn't have the power of the dragon vein, he couldn't use this move at all. This huge amount of chakra consumption, one strike is enough to evaporate all his chakra. But now he doesn't need to worry about this at all, just output at full strength. This feeling is really refreshing. The rolled-up sand iron tornado is like a shinigami that keeps moving forward, and the high-speed rotating sand iron is like a giant meat grinder. Even high-rise buildings, if caught in this tornado, will be shattered in an instant. Not to mention being decomposed into atomic-sized dust, but there are definitely gravel-sized ones. The third case didn't believe that the Uchiha Zon in front of him had any ability to stop. Dust release original realm stripping technique sword. A huge sword of dust release constructed by a translucent barrier instantly slashed across. Swish. The iron sand tornado was cut off instantly, and the third cage's body was also split in half. The dazed third case looked at his lower body that was about to fall to the ground, and immediately manipulated the chakra thread with a dark face to reassemble it. How can he use dust release so fast? Onoki is not so skilled. The third case couldn't even see Uchiha Zon's seal, he just shouted whatever he wanted. And seeing that the third case actually reassembled his lower body, Uchiha Zon was sure that this guy also turned himself into a puppet. The two bodies are probably not the real body, it should be the same as the future scorpion, there must be a core. But if it is this core, they should have secretly put it somewhere. Uchiha Zon muttered in his heart, and when he saw Ebizo trying to break free from the restraints of the wooden giant hand, he immediately showed an unhappy expression. Just stay here and don't show off in public. Sage Art King Kong did a Jiao blockade. Uchiha Zon closed his eyes and opened them again, and entered sage mode instantly. He clapped his hands, and hundreds of thick chakra chains burst out from his back in an instant. These chakra chains contain natural energy, and they completely imprisoned the body of the giant puppet. Plus Ebizo, who was completely unable to move, was extremely frustrated. I was supposed to help the third case, but why couldn't I move the whole time? The Uzumaki clan's sealing technique. The third case, who saw the clue, took a deep breath and was full of fear. The mysterious man in the mask in front of him was really too weird. Senju Hashirama's wood style, Onoki's dust style, and now the Uzumaki clan's sealing technique. Wait, you won't use the Uchiha clan's Sharingan, or even my magnet style. This thought flashed through the third cage's mind, but he quickly threw himself into the battle. Third case changed his killing move, and the flowing iron sand enveloped the central area of Lulan from all directions. Magnet-style super iron sand boundary method. Now the area within a radius of 5 kilometers is my iron sand boundary. Third case floated in the iron sand boundary, looking down at Uchiha Zon below with pride. Faced with third cage's boasting, Uchiha Zon remained calm, just replied lightly, "You hold your head too high." Magnet-style iron sand coffin. Uchiha Zon grabbed with his palm, and third cage's iron sand boundary suddenly attacked him, the creator. Countless iron sands gathered, wrapped him and dragged him to the ground. How is it possible? My magnet style. Third case was numb, and he didn't even make any resistance for a while. Seeing the magnet style he mastered being used in the hands of others, the shocking fact made his mind blank. What do you mean by your magnet style? Now it's mine. Uchiha Zon looked down at the third case below and said indifferently. Hearing this, the third case was immediately stimulated. With the blessing of the dragon vein power, he burst out endless chakra and forcibly broke free from the shackles of iron sand. The third cage flew into the air and said nothing more. He waved his hand and condensed the iron sand waves to kill Uchiha Zan. His killing move was completely in the direction of mutual destruction, that is, to use his immortal body and infinite chakra to kill Uchiha Zan in front of him. Only by killing Uchiha can he wash away this insulted experience. At the same time, in the underground factory, Makoto, Kanako, Sasha and others had already killed their way deep into the factory. Ebizo, who was trapped by Uchiha Zan, discovered the invading Makoto and his group and immediately used his energy to deal with them. Tempest Kick Reikiri. Uchiha Zan's 4-wood clone kicked out dozens of lightning strikes with their feet, shattering the clay puppets and chakra threads. The puppet troops blocking them were temporarily broken, causing Makoto and the others to speed up and rush deeper. Although the wood clone chakra can be continuously supplied with the Sage Curse seal, but the output of chakra is still limited. The farther away from the main body, the lower the output intensity. Uchiha Zan, who separated his mind to control the wood clone, knew the limits of his 4 clones. To kill Ebizo and the third cage, he must find their core. Uchiha Zan, who had killed the third cage more than several times, was sure that the core was not in the body above. Uchiha Zan released Kagura Hard Eye Hard Net but still found nothing after searching. The power of the dragon vein is still too great, which makes the core fluctuations of Ebizo and the third cage covered up. Quote. The 4 wood clones muttered in dissatisfaction, and then they had no time to think about it. Groups of clay puppets were coming from all directions. Trouble, you are sealed up there, so you just focus on making trouble here, right? Sage mode open. The 4 wood clones all turned on Sage mode. Sage Art Big Ball Rasengan. The Rasengan with a diameter of 20 meters in their hands blasted at the attacking puppet troops. The terrifying destructive force collapsed the structure of the factory, and in the collapsed building, Ebizo was still controlling the clay puppets to reorganize. He had completely abandoned the control above and concentrated on dealing with Uchiha Zan's wood clone here. A mere shadow clone, I won't let you succeed. Puppet Technique Machine Light Shield Seal. The endless dragon vein power was transformed into chakra, and instantly transformed into a powerful shield on the giant puppet reorganized by Ebizo. Bang bang bang. The subsequent Rasengan attacks were all blocked by it. Puppet Technique Blade Control. Kunai controlled by chakra threads shot out one after another, stabbing at Uchiha's 4 clones. Sage Art Fire Style Dragon Flame Song Technique. Wood clone quickly formed a seal and spit out 5 fire dragons in one breath. These fire dragons formed by high-density chakra compression, each of which has the terrifying power to destroy a ninja army. The fired kunai was melted by the scorching heat of the fire dragon before it got close to a few meters. 5 fire dragons instantly flew towards the puppet controlled by Ebizo. Faced with the attacking fire dragons, Ebizo did not panic at all. Puppet Technique BBDJ, 3 Treasures Suction Collapse. Relying on the terrifying body after being transformed into a puppet, he directly used the puppet technique that was supposed to be composed of 3 puppets. In an instant, a fierce tornado was generated from the mouth of the centipede puppet, and the 5 fire dragons were sucked into the belly with one breath. The 5 fire dragons in the belly were compressed by a huge amount of chakra. The centipede puppet raised its tail end at this time and suddenly opened a small mouth. In an instant, a hot line of fire sprayed out from the small mouth at the tail end. Feel your own ninjutsu. Through this improved puppet body, Ebizo can not only use 3 treasures bite collapse, but also give it the power of transfer ninjutsu. Even though this process requires the puppet body to withstand overload operation, Uchiha Zan can see his body breaking bit by bit. But the next second, countless chakra threads shot out and quickly adhered and reorganized the body of the centipede puppet. Wood-style wood expulsion jutsu. Wood standing at the forefront clone, put his hands together and instantly created a wooden shield shaped like a fanged ghost face, blocking the scorching fire line. Even if this was the ninjutsu that Wood clone had released before, it could not break the defense of the shield. Looking at the 4 intact Wood clone, Ebizo snorted coldly. It doesn't matter, my chakra is infinite, and my body is immortal. You can't defeat me, and you can't kill me. Now that the chakra is full and the body is immortal, Ebizo's heart swelled up. But Uchiha Zan's 4 wood clones completely ignored his screams. The next moment, the 4 wood clones stood in 4 different directions, and at the same time, they formed seals with their palms for the first time in a long time. 4 purple flame formation. This is the barrier ninjutsu he learned from Uzumaki Mito. Originally, this required 4 people to perform, but he relied on the 4 wood clone can also be used. In the 4 directions of east, west, south and north, a purple transparent flame rectangular barrier is quickly opened, and the barrier array is attached with purple flames. If the clay puppets outside want to enter, they will be burned to ashes by the purple flames attached to the barrier. And the centipede puppets controlled by Ebizo inside cannot break free from the barrier. Seeing this, Ebizo can only control the participating clay puppets to attack Makoto, Kanako and Sasha. Facing these dozen clay puppets, Makoto and Kanako can easily stop them. Lord Cage is in trouble. The enemy has penetrated deep into our factory and is heading to the source of the dragon vein with Princess Sasha. Ebizo had to immediately tell the third Cage who was fighting with Uchiha Zan about this situation. What? Can't you stop them? I'm trapped by 4 shadow clones. As soon as Ebizo said this, the third Cage was so angry that he didn't explode on the spot. What do you mean by being trapped by shadow clone? If shadow clone can trap you, how useless are you? Ebizo also had a hard time saying it. Uchiha Zan's 4 wood clones were not as strong as shadow clones. He had used up all his tricks, and could only be on par with the 4 shadow clones at best. How dare you be distracted while fighting me? Dust release. Original realm stripping technique. Uchiha Zan, standing in the sky, gathered his palms and released a dust release beam. The impact beam that decomposed everything instantly descended, blasting most of the third Cage's body and the sand iron giant into atomic dust. As the battle intensified, Uchiha Zan became more and more proficient in the use of dust release. It was so cool. The released dust release beam was like a giant sword that penetrated the sky and the earth, wantonly cutting the third Cage below. He was like an ant being trampled by humans, trying to open his mouthparts to bite and resist, but was killed by a finger. From just now to now, the third Cage has been completely numb. If it weren't for his puppet body and the power of the dragon vein, he would have died at least 30 or 40 times. As a result, I was holding on with my life, while Ebizo was being killed by wood clone below. I can't fight anymore. Third Cage, who was so frustrated that he collapsed, gave up the idea of continuing to fight Uchiha Zan. Who wants to continue to endure being crushed like a bug and then resurrected? He abandoned this body and immediately used the soul core stored deep in the underground factory to reassemble a body. The most important thing now is to stop Sasha and the others and close the source of the dragon vein. The matter of the monster above has to be put aside for the time being. If he loses the supply of dragon vein power, third Cage can't imagine how he will face Uchiha Zan. And watching third Cage abandon this body, Uchiha Zan also cast his eyes in the direction of the underground factory. It's a bit too late to rush over now. It seems that I can only use the clone. Uchiha Zan flew over there quickly while concentrating most of his energy on the wood clone. The reshaped body of the third Cage has arrived in front of the 4 purple flame formation. Use the barrier ninjutsu to trap Ebizo. Okay. The third Cage who saw it with his own eyes could understand why Ebizo was trapped. He was not in the mood to save Ebizo, but immediately flew towards the source of the dragon vein. However, Uchiha Zan was not going to give him this opportunity. The wood clone that originally formed the 4 purple flame formation lifted the formation. Ebizo, who noticed this scene, thought Uchiha Zan was crazy. You actually lifted the seal. Do you think 4 wood clones can stop Master Cage and me? What a joke. Ebizo controlled the centipede puppet and suddenly rushed towards the 4 wood clones. The third Cage also frowned, and manipulated the iron sand to kill the wood clone that was blocking the way. The next moment, golden chakra and pupil power flowed from the bodies of the 4 wood clone. In the horrified eyes of the third Cage and Ebizo, a golden skeleton appeared in the air minister. Based on the skeleton, meridians and flesh also appeared, and were finally wrapped in the outer coat like chakra. 4 Susanoos in 2 forms appeared in front of the 2. What a joke. This is the Susanoo of the Uchiha Clan. The two screamed in disbelief at the same time, and they almost thought they were under an illusion. But the 4 wood clones of Uchiha Zan were not in the mood to chat with them. Now, every minute and every second, a huge amount of pupil power and chakra are being consumed. Although opening more Susanoo like this can help to train pupil power, this consumption is really exaggerated. If he hadn't considered that he could kill all the sand shinobi in Lulan later to replenish his pupil power consumption, Feng Zibodong would not dare to be so presumptuous. Susanoo. The 4 Susanoos held swords in their left hands and a piece of chain in their right hands. This is the weapon that Uchiha Zan used his left eye transformation portrait to deduce adamantine sealing chains to make Susanoo possess. 2 Susanoo swung out their giant swords and chopped at the 3rd Kazekage and Ebizo. The remaining 2 Susanoo swung their diamond chains at the 2. Facing the attack of Susanoo, the 2 also completely woke up. There was no time to think about what was going on and why the other party could still summon Susanoo. The 2 immediately launched a counterattack. Puppet technique Super Dragon Vein Great Fireball. Magnet style Sand Iron Cone Thorn. The attacks hit Susanoo one after another, and the terrifying destructive power shattered the shells of the 2 Susanoos in front. In the smoke, 2 flying diamond chains tied up the 2 people at lightning speed. They tried to break free from the bondage of the diamond chains, and their expressions could be said to be extremely painful. The hardness of the diamond chain is not only terrifying, but also has the power to suppress chakra. Under the restraint of the chain, the chakra they can use is suppressed by 2/3. Even if the power of the dragon vein provides a steady stream of chakra, the 3rd Kazekage and Ebizo cannot break free from the restraints for a while. The 3rd Kazekage roared in anger and despair. He had never thought that he would lose to Shadow Clone before. At this time, Makoto and Kanako had escorted Sasha to the source of the dragon vein. This is a suspended tower-shaped building with a long bridge leading directly to the platform in the center of the source. Looking down the bridge, it is all rich purple-black dragon vein power. Even though it was squandered by the 3rd Kazekage and Ebizo, and was previously developed without limit by Sunagakure, the power of the dragon vein has not decreased at all, as if it is endless. Adamantine sealing chains. 5 chains extended from Kanako Uzumaki's back, and she quickly tied up the puppet man who was chasing her. Fire-style balsamic claw red. Uchiha Makoto took the opportunity to attach the flame to the flying shuriken, making the shuriken mixed with scorching heat, like balsamic flowers scattered all over the sky, shooting at the puppet troops. Boom boom boom. Amid the explosion, the puppets bloomed like fireworks. Quick, the 2 also shouted at Sasha at the same time. Sasha, who was running forward with her head down, immediately said, "I'm the fastest." The immortal seal on the back of her hand glowed faintly, making Sasha burst out at a speed that ordinary people could not have. Sasha rushed to the central platform of the tower and quickly placed both hands on the dragon vein seal in the center. As Sasha touched it, the eye-like passage in the center of the dragon vein lit up with purple light. Sasha's forehead was sweating, and he used his own bloodline ability to control the power of the dragon vein and began to close the dragon vein channel. Buzz. At the moment when the source of the dragon vein was closed, the power of the dragon vein also dissipated rapidly. The dragon vein power that was originally visible to the naked eye below quickly returned to the earth. Cut off the supply of dragon vein power, the 3rd Kazekage and Ebizo who were fighting hard over there quickly weakened. Uchiha Zan saw this and stopped maintaining Susanoo, and immediately released it. He is not the eternal Mangekyo now, and he doesn't have that much pupil power to squander. It's enough to use it once in a while to exercise like this. Without the cover of the dragon vein power, I found your core. Wood-style wooden golem jutsu. Boom. The ceiling of the underground factory suddenly exploded. The huge wooden golem smashed the earth with a punch and broke into the underground factory. Uchiha Zan's Mangekyo Sharingan swept around and immediately locked the location of the 3rd Kazekage and Ebizo's soul core. Under Kagura's hard eye hard net, the chakra fluctuations of the 2 of them were too obvious. The tremor of the ground also made them realize that the location of their soul cores was exposed. The 2 immediately retracted their minds and controlled the soul cores to condense into bodies. But when they opened their eyes, a giant hand instantly lifted the roof and exposed them to the air. Haha, we meet again, don't try to run this time. Uchiha Zan threw away the mask on his face and looked down coldly at the third case cage and Ebizo below. Seeing the true face of Uchiha Zan, Kusaka recognized the famous Konaha Thunder King before. It's you, Uchiha Zan. How is it possible? How can you have so many blood limits? The two screamed in fear, because they knew that Uchiha Zan would never let them go alive. Uchiha Zan, who was too lazy to explain to the two, controlled the wooden golem to hit the two, as if he was going to kill two ants. Puppet technique Jinmatsu Tenenshu. Magnet-style sand-iron Euro. Ebizo and the third case cage, at the critical moment of life and death, both burst out their strongest moves to try to save their lives. But facing the giant hand of the wooden golem, the two's attacks could only knock off the wooden golem's palm and drop some wood chips. Boom! The giant hand fell like the five-finger mountain, and instantly suppressed the two under its palm. Reincarnation sacrifice. The black flames released from the right eye burned under the palm of the man. Although the third case cage and Ebizo only had soul cores and no bodies to absorb life force. However, the large amount of chakra contained in their soul cores could also be eroded and devoured by the black flames. Ah! The two people whose soul cores were burned felt the pain of their souls being torn apart. This pain only lasted for 10 seconds before it completely stopped. Because the two soul cores had been burned to ashes by the black flames. This time, Uchiha Zan carefully felt the chakra he had absorbed and felt the message contained in it. The message of the bloodline limit, magnet style, engraved in the chakra belonging to the third case cage was completely received by him. And the skills and methods of using chakra threads contained in Ebizo chakra were also received and recorded by him. The chakra of two cage-level ninjas made Uchiha Zan's body extremely satisfied. He could feel that his cells were becoming more and more energetic. The previously consumed pupil power was restored, and the recovery speed of chakra was also much faster. The precision of chakra control has improved. Now I can even manipulate cells. Uchiha Zan raised his fingers, and thin chakra threads that seemed to be non-existent shot out. The ruined buildings around him began to recover in an instant as if time had gone back. The reason is that Uchiha Zan used chakra threads to pull each fragment and stick it back together. This also involves a very important thing, that is, the attraction between substances. From a microscopic perspective, the whole world does not exist in the sense of cutting off objects. Rather, another object intervenes in this object, causing the mutual force between molecules to be dispersed. Of course, Uchiha Zan cannot yet manipulate molecules with chakra threads. The key to his ability to reorganize these substances is that he swallowed the chakra of the third case cage, which led to the evolution of his own magnet style. He went from simply manipulating magnetic force to manipulating electromagnetic force. Magnetic force is electromagnetic force, and electromagnetic force is one of the four fundamental forces in the universe. He used electromagnetic force superficially to stick those substances together. It's just that such manipulation is too microscopic and requires extremely high precision. Even Uchiha Zan cannot interfere at the molecular and atomic levels for a long time. However, he has been able to do the bonding and reorganization at the cellular level. This does not involve DNA modification, which is too microscopic and he really can't do it. But Uchiha Zan can now use cell recombination to repair injuries. At a deeper genetic level. Re-cell expulsion and re-cell attraction are two very good research directions, but research is not my strong point. Uchiha Zan touched his chin and fell into thought. He is definitely not a scientific research madman, and he does not have this talent. But others do. Orochimaru, the future first scientist in the ninja world, his figure immediately appeared in Uchiha Zan's mind. Although Orochimaru does not have this title now, he will be in the future. This cunning lion majesty is not so easy to control. I'd better have a pupil technique or ninjutsu similar to distinguished heavenly gods so that I can control him with confidence. Uchiha Zan had a lot of thoughts in his mind, but he quickly suppressed his thoughts. It was too early to think about these things now. He had to go and see how Makoto and the others were doing. When he arrived at the Dragon Vein Tower, he saw them sitting on the central platform. They looked at the clay puppets that had stopped moving around them with lingering fear. It was obvious that these puppets had brought them a lot of shadows. Makoto, Kanako, you did a great job. After Uchiha Zan came over, he immediately stepped forward and gave Makoto and Kanako a big hug. They smiled with satisfaction, and hurriedly said shyly, "This is a mission, Schwanjin young master, I am also doing what we should do." Seemingly noticing that Sasha next to him was neglected, Uchiha Zan also smiled and went up to give her a hug. "And you Sasha, this time it's also thanks to you for sealing the dragon vein." The gentle voice warmed Sasha's heart. Feeling the warmth of Uchiha Zan's hug, Sasha's heart could not help but calm down. Just thinking that it was the first time she was so close to a man, Sasha's fair face flushed. As a princess of the Lulan royal family, she can be described as a lady in the boudoir, never leaving the second gate. Uchiha Zan also let go of the courtesy hug. It is not a good thing to tease this lovely princess. Not to mention Makoto, Kanako and others are still around, this kind of thing has to be done secretly. After being shy, the future queen of Lulan quickly thought of her own people. She anxiously asked Uchiha Zan said, "How are the people of Lulan?" Uchiha Zan led the way, while Kaido said, "I tried my best to protect them with the wood style. As long as they don't get too close to the center of the battlefield, the casualties won't be too serious." Sasha heaved a sigh of relief after hearing what Uchiha Zan said. With her face still slightly red, Sasha bowed deeply to Uchiha Zan sincerely. "Zan-jun, on behalf of the people of Lulan, I thank you for your protection. If there is anything I can help with in the future, I hope you can tell me." She knew very well that Uchiha Zan did not need to protect the people of Lulan at all, and he needed gratitude and repayment for his help. As the princess of Lulan, she also understood this truth after following her parents. But now the price she can pay is only a verbal promise. After all, she is a princess who is now penniless and has not really become the queen of Lulan. Even if she becomes the queen of Lulan, she will have to face a lot of things. Because of the current seal of the dragon vein, she has already fallen out with Sunagakure. Isolated and helpless in Lulan in the center of the desert, Sasha knew that she might need the help of Uchiha Zan to survive the crisis. Uchiha Zan did not reject Sasha's kindness. Strictly speaking, Lulan was of extraordinary value to him. This dragon vein alone was worth his investment in Lulan. He now hoped that Sasha could become the queen of Lulan, which was in a sense his control of Lulan. He was not yet able to get his hands on the power of the dragon vein, but he would definitely not let go of this great help in the future. Uchiha Zan returned to the surface and recovered the vines all over the ground. He did not let go of any of the sand shinobi, and burned them all to become nutrients for his body. Sunagakure looked at Lulan very much. The number of sand shinobi deployed in Lulan was already 1/3 of the front line. With the life of thousands of sand shinobi in this wave, Uchiha Zan's pupil power that he had consumed before was almost restored. His physical strength and chakra volume have been greatly improved. If he only used lightning-style chakra mode and 6 styles, Chia, he would feel that he was not inferior to Cloud Shinobi. Village movie. His physical strength may not be as good as the movie of long-term training, but at least it is not much worse. Ordinary kunai and shuriken can't pierce his skin. Explosive talismans can't pierce his skin unless they are thousands or tens of thousands of them explode continuously. Without using chakra to strengthen his body, it is not qualified to threaten his life. Uchiha Zan estimated that the total amount of chakra has doubled compared to before. If we divide it by the level of ninja, I should have a super shadow in terms of the pure chakra level. Even if it is just the entry level, it is many times stronger than the ordinary cage level. If he enters sage mode, his chakra should be second only to Senju Hashirama. The main reason is that he is still too young. If he is a few years older, Uchiha Zan is sure that his chakra can surpass Senju Hashirama. Now he can't use Super Sage Art Ninjutsu like true several thousand hands. When Uchiha Zan was evaluating the harvest, Sasha invited him to stay in Lulan with Makoto, Kanako and others for 2 days. "No matter what, please let me be the host for Schwanjin, Makoto and Kanako." Sasha was gentle and sincere in her voice to invite Uchiha Zan and his party. After returning to the Lulan palace, she also went to her bedroom to change into the princess's clothes. The princess's clothes with Lulan characteristics are beautiful and dignified. Sasha's delicate facial features also match this dress very well. The slender eyebrows are slightly raised, and the lips with light makeup are rosy and plump, giving people a gentle and sweet feeling. The soft long hair gently falls on her shoulders, like a black waterfall, like flowing water. Sasha's posture is upright and straight, but her figure is not flat at the age of 16. Even with the loose clothing, the yi was supported by her to form a soft mountain line. Sasha just stood there, naturally exuding a noble and elegant temperament. Looking at the changed Sasha, Makoto and Kanako's eyes were obviously much more respectful. They were not like Uchiha-san, who had no awe for the princess of the country and the daimyo. Makoto and Konako were influenced by the environment, and they still had some respect for these upper-class people of the aristocracy. "Princess Sasha, how could we refuse your request?" And looking at such a beautiful Sasha, Uchiha-san had no intention of refusing. He originally planned to stay for 2 days to clean up the mess of the Lulan underground factory and the research materials left by Sunagakure. Although he himself could not use the unconventional technology of puppetization, he could not deny its value. Seeing Uchiha-san agreed, Sasha raised a sweet smile on his cheeks and nodded at Uchiha-san with gentle eyes. In 2 days, she will also be preparing to succeed as the queen, and Sasha also hopes that Uchiha-san and others will be present. It is also a good opportunity to explain the achievements of Uchiha-san and others to the people of Lulan. When everyone went to the dining table, Sasha was already thinking about how to make Uchiha-san her best ally. As she thought about it, an idea came to her mind. Marriage. Although Lulan was isolated in the desert, it was not really cut off from the outside world. There were trade exchanges and so on, otherwise there would be no historical records of Lulan in the outside world. In the past history of Lulan, there were also records of marriages with foreign countries. It was just that in recent decades, Lulan basically lived in isolation. And the country of Lulan is strange. Perhaps due to the influence of the power of the dragon vein, the offspring born of their royal bloodline are all female. Therefore, the rulers of Lulan are all queens. Although they will not say that they will marry outside, they will also recruit men as husbands. This husband can be from Lulan or from the outside world. Sasha's father was the son of a businessman from the outside world, who stayed here and became her mother's husband. Thinking of this, Sasha twisted the corner of her clothes with her white fingertips, sat down at the dining table, and carefully peeked at Uchiha-san. Let's not talk about other things for now. Just from Uchiha-san's handsome appearance, she is absolutely willing. But he is only 12 years old. Just thinking about Uchiha-san's age, Sasha wants to slap herself a few times. As a princess of a country, she also knows that this is a crime. But he is not young. In Sasha's mind, the big tent she saw this morning emerged. She has never seen the characteristics of the opposite gender, but her female instinct tells her that it is definitely beyond the standard. Uchiha-san saw Sasha's peach-like face, and she glanced at him from time to time. Uchiha-san knew her appearance, she was definitely. He saw it more than once on Tsunade at the beginning, so he was naturally familiar with it. But what does this mean? This Lulan kilometer is spying on my beauty, right? I haven't taken the initiative yet, how come I'm being targeted? Is it her keen political sense that she wants to win me over, or is it just pure? Uchiha-san didn't dare to judge, he could only pretend to be calm at the moment. We are still at the dinner table now, the atmosphere suddenly becomes ambiguous, that's not right. In this particularly silent dinner, Uchiha-san found that Sasha, Makoto, and Konako glanced at him from time to time. He didn't know what they were thinking, but Uchiha-san always felt like he was a prey. What a joke. Sasha is fine, but why are Makoto and Konako also thinking too much? Usually, I feed them milk secretly and give them a hand massage. The latter is also requested by Makoto and Konako, who want to have a body like Tsunade. If it goes deeper, it seems that it is not impossible. Although the size is too large, he will return life. With the blessing of the immortal seal that I implanted in them, it shouldn't be a big deal for 4 hearts. Thinking about this, Uchiha-san's mind was distracted. Fertile Tsunade is like this. He only needs to consider how to plow the fields vigorously, while there are many things to consider when cultivating 2 pieces of tender soil. This is a delicate job. If you are not careful, it will bring psychological shadows to Makoto, Konako and others. That is not conducive to your future, happy life. In Uchiha Zan's wild thoughts, the dinner ended quietly. Makoto and Kanako asked impatiently, "Where are we going to sleep tonight?" The two people's thoughts are clear at a glance. It is obvious that they are ready to go with Uchiha Zan a room. Facing the two people's eager inquiries, Sasha showed a gentle and elegant smile. "We Lulan will naturally arrange the best room for each of you distinguished guests to rest." Makoto and Kanako's expressions froze. They always felt that Sasha had something to say, but they couldn't say it back. There was nothing wrong with Sasha's words. It seemed that this was indeed the way to entertain them. The two could only force a smile to respond, leaving only Sasha with a smug look, and nodded to Uchiha Zan. Uchiha Zan didn't have any objections. He was going to sort out the things he had just thought of by himself. Should he rush it or keep it for another 2 years? This is a question that needs to be thought about. Led by the maid of Lulan Palace, Uchiha Zan came to a spacious bedroom to live. "My lord, this is your room. Please call me if you have any requests." "Well, I know." Quote. Uchiha Zan agreed with satisfaction and closed the door. Back in the bedroom, Uchiha Zan, who was a little more sober, did not think about the previous mess. "The most important thing to consider now is how to protect Lulan after I leave. He must take over the land of Lulan. It's a pity that I haven't practiced Flying Thunder God yet. I must get it after I go back. If the old man of the third generation dares to disobey me, it's not impossible to kill him directly." Knowing that he is powerful, Uchiha Zan's mentality is gradually becoming more unbridled. However, this idea is for the future after all, and he has not yet learned Flying Thunder God. He quickly thought of the factories underground in Lulan. Although these factories were partially damaged, the entire production line was not broken. If the clay puppets produced were used. No, there are no ninjas in Lulan who can use puppetry. Those production lines may come in handy in the future to produce troops. As for now, it is better to put it aside. Quote, after much thought, Uchiha Zan finally came up with the most reliable idea. Originally, he had thought of using yin-yang escape to give those puppets simple consciousness and life. However, Uchiha Zan, who knew the difficulty of mass production, did not make things difficult for himself. He was not yet proficient in yin-yang escape, so who knew what he would come up with. Therefore, setting up a barrier ninjutsu for Lulan became the best solution he could do at the moment. "We need help in this regard, because the 3 snake ministers in the cave are talented in this area. Fortunately, we have signed a summoning contract with them before, so it is not difficult to summon them out for help. And Uchiha Zan remembers that the 3 of them like to eat chakra. I will feed them some of my chakra later, or absorb some dragon vein power for them as a reward." Dong dong dong. Uchiha Zan was just about to bite his finger and summon the 3 snake princesses out. A knock on the door interrupted his action. Glancing at the time on the wall, it was already early morning. In this world, unless they are making people at this time, they are usually asleep. Could it be Makoto, Kanako and others who are coming? Uchiha Zan, who slightly let go of his perception, knew who was outside the door at the first time. Unlike what he imagined, the people who came were not Makoto and Kanako, but Sasha. She changed into a top and a short skirt, and stood in front of the door with a shy expression. Uchiha Zan immediately opened the door a crack to welcome the princess of Lulan who came at night. Bang! The door closed lightly. In the whole dormitory, only the 2 of them were left, staring at each other. Uchiha Zan smiled and patted the edge of the bed to let Sasha sit down. Sasha, who was as obedient as a robot, naturally sat down next to Uchiha Zan. Looking at the girl who lowered her head beside her, her ears were rosy, and she looked so cute. Uchiha Zan couldn't help but want to tease her. His fingertips gently hooked a strand of Sasha's black hair, playing with it while asking, "I wonder if Princess Sasha, you come here so late, do you have any questions for me?" Sasha noticed Uchiha Zan's little move, bit her pink lips, and nervously put her fingers together. She seemed to have consumed all her courage just sitting here. But when she thought that Uchiha Zan might leave after tonight, Sasha couldn't help but feel motivated again. She quickly glanced at Uchiha Zan glanced at her, his eyes flickering, not daring to look directly at her. The long eyelashes trembled slightly, and the lips slightly stretched out a sound as thin as a mosquito's hum. Zan, Schwanjin, I hope you can. Seemingly aware of Uchiha Zan's teasing eyes, Sasha quickly lowered her head, trying to hide her inner panic and uneasiness. Uchiha Zan loosened the fingers that were teasing Sasha's hair, and instead lifted her white and smooth chin. Sasha's delicate and pretty face faced his eyes privately. Princess Sasha, please speak louder, I can't hear you very well. Your cute appearance is easy to make people wolfish, or Princess Sasha, are you doing it on purpose? Uchiha Zan approached Sasha's ear and whispered in her ear with a magnetic voice. The warm breath and straightforward words made Sasha feel more suitable for the chaos in Fang village. Her cheeks flushed, like a blooming peach blossom. I didn't mean it. Sasha whispered softly, trying to refute Uchiha Zan's words. But when the big hands covered her slender waist, the scorching temperature made her brain go blank like an electric shock. She murmured with her pink lips, and finally whispered, please pity me, Schwanjin. The girl let out a moan from her nose. Uchiha Zan, who heard the sound, slowly woke up from his sleep. Soon his attention was attracted by the girl next to him. Her skin was as white as jade and flawless, and her black hair was as soft and charming as a waterfall. Uchiha Zan couldn't help but recall the immaturity and sweetness that belonged to this girl. It was different from the plumpness of Tsunade, and the sourness and sweetness of immature fruits also had a unique flavor. As if awakened by Uchiha Zan's actions, Sasha's eyelashes moved and slowly opened her eyes. She looked a little confused after just waking up. Am I still alive? Sasha murmured to herself, still recalling Uchiha Zan's strong figure in her mind. And the figure in her mind soon overlapped with the man in front of her. She seemed to be frightened, and the lazy confusion on her face faded away in an instant. Sasha, who woke up, noticed Uchiha Zan's burning gaze. At this moment, Sasha couldn't hold back her shyness. She quickly stood up and wanted to put on her clothes to cover herself. But after seeing the debris on the ground, Sasha realized that her clothes had been torn into pieces last night. In a hurry, she could only hide again. This was a simple and lovely scene of a girl, which made Uchiha Zan eager to move. Sasha also realized that something was wrong. She could feel that the eyes of the little man in front of her were so hot that they seemed to melt her. Zan-jun, don't look. Sasha uttered a weak whine, and her face was full of the blush of a little girl. Uchiha Zan had a playful smile on his face and said, okay, it's not like you haven't seen it before. I'll ask the maid to get you clothes. As he spoke, Uchiha Zan reached out his hand and pulled Sasha back, who had stood up. After covering her with the quilt, he said sternly, rest well next, and you don't have to worry about the rest. Well, quote, Sasha's face was filled with shame and indignation, but she still nodded obediently. Uchiha Zan did not try to do morning exercises either, and he knew very well what intensity Sasha had. She had already reached her limit, and if she continued to play with it, it would break. When Uchiha Zan changed her clothes and went out, Sasha shyly covered her head with the quilt. Her inner shame completely broke out, and she punched the soft pillow with her little pink fist. And why is he so BBFI skilled, could it be? Sasha could not help but imagine, but in the end she remembered her identity. She could not ask for too much, and she was already very good now. After adjusting her mentality, the maid who received Uchiha Zan's order quickly brought the clothes. Seeing Princess Sasha like this, the maid immediately realized that Lulan might have a master. Uchiha Zan, who was refreshed, soon saw the lawn on the lawn after leaving the palace. Makoto and Kanako. They were not as affectionate as before today, and they were fighting over there. Hey, ha, bang, bang, bang. The fists and calves collided, and the fighting force of Makoto and Kanako blew up the grass. Seeing them fighting so fiercely, Uchiha Zan was confused. It shouldn't be that they discovered what happened between him and Sasha, after all, they didn't sense them outside last night. What Uchiha Zan didn't know was that the two of them actually went for a night raid last night. It was just that on the way, the two of them happened to be at the corner and met face to face. Now in the dark night, the two of them went from being awkward at first to fighting each other afterwards. This anger continued to this morning, when they had dinner together and fought each other. But they didn't do anything fatal, it was more of an emotional catharsis. Noticed Uchiha Zan appeared, and the two stopped and stood there for a moment. The three looked at each other, and the scene was extremely awkward. The three looked at each other and turned their heads away. Uchiha Zan coughed twice and said, "Ahem, I'm going to set up Lulan's barrier ninjutsu. Makoto, Kanako, what's wrong with you?" "Nothing, we're just playing." "Yes, I'm playing with Miss Makoto." Quote. Makoto and Kanako also sang the same tune, inexplicably ending this awkward meeting. Uchiha Zan knew that this was not a place to stay for a long time, so he ran away without saying a word. Makoto and Kanako were glad that Uchiha Zan didn't notice anything. After all, they went on a night raid last night, and it was hard to say if they met each other. After Uchiha Zan left, Makoto looked at Kanako and asked bluntly, "Kanako, tell me, how is your progress with Schwanjin now?" Makoto didn't believe that Kanako and Uchiha Zan didn't have a relationship, otherwise she would definitely not have gone on a night raid last night. Kanako asked back, "Then Miss Makoto, what about you and the young master?" After a moment of silence, the two stopped arguing. They were ready to be frank and have a good chat. Uchiha Zan came to the depths of Lulan's underground factory and went straight to the source of the dragon vein. After in-depth communication, "It seems that I have some induction with the dragon vein." Quote. He reached out and touched the sealed dragon vein, and a little bit of dragon vein power was pulled out. The purple dragon vein power contained vigorous vitality and immediately merged into his body. If he had absorbed the dragon vein power before, he would have to spend more time to reconcile the violent power. The dragon vein power is like natural energy after purification. It is too difficult to absorb and transform it. Generally, it can only be borrowed through means such as puppetization. This time is different. He can absorb a little bit of it. Uchiha Zan can feel that after absorbing this bit of dragon vein power, his body has improved a lot. In particular, his pupil power has also recovered a little, and the speed is much faster than absorbing ninja chakra. If it is stably extracted and absorbed, it will be good for me. It's just that I can't absorb it on a large scale now, and the result is that my body will be blown up. Quote. Uchiha Zan touched the source of the dragon vein and then closed it again. His main purpose of coming here was to use the dragon vein to create a barrier to protect Lulan. It's definitely not enough for me alone. I was interrupted last night. I will explain it after calling out the 3 snake princesses. Summoning technique 3 snake princesses. Uchiha Zan bit his finger and slapped the ground with one palm. In an instant, the summoning array of the summoning technique appeared on the platform. Bang, bang, bang. 3 streams of white smoke rose, and the 3 graceful Ryachi Cave snake princesses appeared in front of Uchiha Zan. Tanksen Shenji, Ikikishima-ji, and Suzu-ji immediately saluted Uchiha Zan and asked, "Master Uchiha Zan, you asked the 3 of us to come out together, is there something going on?" Generally speaking, only one summoning is enough, and Uchiha Zan called all 3 of them at once, which obviously means something big. It's just that it's so quiet here, which makes the 3 snake princesses confused. Let me briefly talk about this. Uchiha Zan briefly summarized the things about Lulan and the dragon vein. The 3 snake princesses who understood the reason looked at the source of the dragon vein in shock. No wonder the natural energy here is so rich, it turns out that there is a materialized dragon vein here. Tanksen Shenji muttered to herself, feeling the rich natural energy in the air. Princess Ikikishima was floating in the air, and she flew to Uchiha Zan and complained. "Master Zan, it is not an easy task to set up a barrier ninjutsu that can cover the country. Don't be discouraged, we just have to do our best. If we can perfectly use the power of the dragon vein, it is not impossible to do it." Princess Suzu looked serious, she was really discussing the feasibility of this matter. The huge consumption of a barrier ninjutsu that covers the country is an astronomical figure. But the dragon vein just fills this point, and you only need to connect the dragon vein power with the barrier, and then everything will be done. It is easy to drive the power of the dragon vein, and I have the corresponding information here. Let's discuss it and see if we can achieve this. Uchiha Zan also echoed and took out the dragon vein data left by Sunagakure that he had collected. The 4 of them discussed the barrier ninjutsu seriously on the platform at the source of the dragon vein. The 3 snake princesses are also experts in barriers. The psychedelic area in Ryachi Cave was their masterpiece. Finally, after discussion, everyone decided to create the psychedelic barrier set up by the Minryachi cave as the core. We need to change a few points. It would be best if the barrier could make the whole Lulan invisible. If we simply create a psychedelic area, it would attract the attention of others. Tanjin Princess made a suggestion, and Uchiha Zan nodded in approval. Tangsen Shenji echoed at this time. The barrier also needs the same characteristics as a maze. If it is simply invisible, the opponent may also break in directly. We need to let them bypass it without knowing it. Finally, we must set up a layer of insurance to make the barrier defensive after being discovered. Aikikishima Princess added that the suggestions of the three women were indispensable. Uchiha Zan also told all the sealing techniques and barrier ninjutsu he knew. Finally, the four of them created a brand new barrier ninjutsu, Dragon Vein Sealing. This barrier ninjutsu was constructed by Uchiha Zan using the left eye pupil technique, spiritual transformation and portration, combining everyone's understanding of sealing techniques and barrier ninjutsu. Dragon Vein Sealing requires the creation of 4 talismans that connect the power of dragon veins, and place them in the east, west, south and north of Lulan. Then the power of the dragon veins is connected, so that the range of the talisman is transformed into a barrier space. Each talisman also contains an effect, invisible psychedelic, defense and the last energy supply. The first 3 are used for defense, and the last one is used to convert the power of dragon veins into the consumption of the barrier. To remove this barrier, you have to find the most important energy supply talisman among the 4 talismans. If you tear it up, it will work. The existence of this weakness is also inevitable. After all, everyone has little time to discuss, and continuing to improve this barrier ninjutsu may make it perfect. Dragon Vein Seal. Rise. The 4 of them went to the 4 areas of Lulan, east, west, south and north, holding the talismans and burying them in the corresponding positions. Then the 4 of them used the fairy art chakra at the same time to truly connect the 4 talismans to make them echo with the Dragon Vein calendar. Buzz buzz buzz. The barrier appeared out of thin air, covering the entire Lulan. From the outside world, a magnificent city suddenly disappeared into the air. Wipe the sweat from the forehead, Uchiha Zan met with the 3 snake princesses. Thank you very much for your help, snake princesses, I wonder what reward you want. Seeing Uchiha Zan mention this on his own initiative, the 3 snake princesses all smiled. Tien Shin Shenji stepped forward, gently stroked Uchiha Zan's chest, and said in a seductive tone. In fact, Lord Uchiha Zan, this attitude is the best reward for me. From what Uchiha Zan did and said, she could feel that Uchiha Zan treated her as an equal woman. Princess Aikikishima thought for a moment and suggested with a smile, I just want to suck a little of your chakra, Master Zan. *0. Can I have a little of your blood, Master? Princess Suzu spoke weakly, staring at Uchiha Zan. Her face flushed as she spoke, saying that she wanted to suck blood, but Uchiha Zan looked at her more like she was in heat. Okay, come on. Uchiha Zan opened his heart and did not refuse the snake's request. Even Princess Tianxin joined the team. They bit Uchiha Zan's neck, shoulders, and palms gently from different directions. Blood and chakra flowed into their throats. Uchiha Zan did not feel any pain, but instead felt a strange throbbing. Wet, soft, slippery. All kinds of exciting touches rippled in his heart. Their blood-sucking actions seemed more like a kiss and flirting to Uchiha Zan. Hey, Yinkin, Master, what are you doing? Makoto and Kanako, who appeared here at this time, saw Uchiha Zan who was being planted with strawberries. The 3 snake princesses stopped sucking when they saw the 2 of them. Sorry, Lord Uchiha Zan was fascinated for a while. Then we'll see you later, we hope to get a better reward. The 3 snake princesses whispered in Uchiha Zan's ears in a seductive tone, leaving behind a loving look and then disappearing out of thin air. Uchiha Zan touched the place where he was bitten and muttered, better reward. That would not only leave my body. I definitely can't let you eat it, it's almost the same as if I ate you. Quote. After shuddering, the 3 bite marks on Uchiha Zan's body healed quickly. Looking at Makoto and Kanako coming over, Uchiha Zan stood up and spoke first. First of all, don't talk. This sentence instantly shut up Makoto and Kanako. Seeing them quiet down, Uchiha Zan roughly explained the situation of the three snake princesses. Oh, so that's how it is. The two girls suddenly realized and then talked about the reason why they came here. It was Konako who sensed the energy fluctuations here and thought that the dragon vein was out of control, so she came here. Then we saw Uchiha Zan hugging the three snake princesses. I didn't expect that the summoning beasts in Ryachi Cave were actually three snake princesses. Makoto looked at Uchiha Zan with complicated eyes. She suddenly felt that there were more and more of these thieving cats. Konako was fine. She had talked a lot with her after reconciliation just now. Makoto didn't mind that she might take away her Schwanjin. But the appearance of the three snake princesses really broke Makoto's defense. People, even a person. Why even the summoning beasts have the opportunity to snatch men from me? Makoto, who thought she was Uchiha Zan's fiancé, felt really stressed at the moment. Uchiha Zan, who didn't know Makoto's thoughts, just thought that this matter was over. The grassroots heroes and so on were all things for the future. As long as Makoto didn't know, it would be fine. Feeling at ease, Uchiha Zan immediately followed Makoto and Konako back to the Lulan Palace. 8, 6, 7. Sasha, who had a good sleep for the whole morning, was ready to fight. Looking at Sasha with radiant eyes, Makoto and Konako felt that she was much more beautiful than yesterday. There was a kind of beauty of a flower bud being moisturized and blooming bright flowers and stamens. And Sasha, who had the immortal curse seal to continue to heal her body, was now able to move freely. I'm sorry I didn't get up in the morning to entertain you two, because I slept late due to some rumors. Sasha had a charming smile on her face, and the charm between her eyebrows made Makoto and the others notice it. Unfortunately, they were still young and didn't know what this meant. They hurriedly declined kindly, and the atmosphere on the scene became particularly harmonious. Only Uchiha Zan noticed that Sasha glanced at him from time to time and winked at him gently. Just now I created a dragon vein barrier, which will protect Lulan safely. Sasha, you don't have to worry about Sunagakure's revenge. I will continue to contact you after everything is settled. Quote. Uchiha Zan went forward and told Sasha about the relevant matters. Sasha felt extremely fulfilled and safe. In addition, she felt guilty because she was too dependent on Uchiha Zan. Without him, she didn't even know where Lulan's future was. Thinking of what she could do in return, Sasha blushed and whispered, "Well, I hope Schwanjin can come here often. I will welcome you with the best etiquette." Of course I will. Facing Sasha's charming eyes, how could Uchiha Zan not understand what she meant? Noticing that Makoto and Konako were standing far away, he whispered in Sasha's ear, "I want to see the real queen of Lulan tomorrow, Sasha, you know what I mean." Del. Sasha moaned with a rosy face and lowered her head, not daring to let others see her expression. Makoto and Konako were still chatting about the snake princess just now, and did not notice the difference between Uchiha Zan and Sasha. Time passed quietly, and the next morning was the day when Sasha ascended the throne to become the queen of Lulan. The queen who was about to ascend the throne knelt in front of the bed in her gorgeous dress, doing the final cleaning work like a servant. Uchiha Zan stroked her messy hair and said, "It's time to go, my queen, you can't be late today." Gudong. Sasha rolled up her tongue and gave Uchiha Zan a charming look. "Who should be blamed for this? You forced me to do this. You even said you liked the way I was dressed. You were so mean." After feeling resentful, Sasha tidied up her clothes that gave off a strange smell. Fortunately, Uchiha Zan's movements were not as rough as before, only the corners of his clothes and hair were a little messy. Now she had no time to change her clothes, so she could only wear this to the coronation ceremony. Thinking that Uchiha Zan was leaving today, Sasha was filled with endless melancholy, and she wished that time would be extended a little longer, even if she was bullied by him. Uchiha Zan saw Sasha's depressed mood and gently took her jade hand. "Be happy, Sasha, you will be the queen of Lulan. And we will not be separated too far. When I learn Flying Thunder God, space will no longer be a barrier." Although Sasha did not know what Flying Thunder God was, she instinctively trusted the little man in front of her because he was her support. Del. After nodding, Sasha raised her head proudly. As the protagonist of today, she who is about to become the queen of Lulan must not lose her demeanor. She is no longer the crying little girl, She wants to be the leader of the people of this country. Uchiha Zan followed behind her, watching Sasha walk step by step to the venue of the coronation ceremony. Walking in a gorgeous robe, her voice was gentle and firm. Standing on the high platform, she was like a blooming rose, exuding majesty and tenderness. If Sasha was only physically mature before, then now her mentality is truly mature. Uchiha Zan was watching from afar, giving Sasha the most reassuring support. After everything was over, Uchiha Zan did not stay any longer, but set off with Makoto and Kanako. Standing on the balcony of the palace, Sasha gently stroked her belly and watched Uchiha Zan go away. Uchiha Zan and his group left Lulan and rushed to the battlefield of Konaha and Sand Shinobi. At this time, the battlefield of Sand Shinobi was shrouded in a dark cloud. Chiyo already knew about the attack on Sunagakure in the rear. Combined with the disappearance of Uchiha Zan, she was sure that the brat went to attack Sunagakure. After learning that a group of ninjas and a senior official died in Sunagakure, he disappeared again. Chiyo thought of the worst result, that something happened to Longmeili. These days, she has been frantically sending Sand Shinobi to contact, but unfortunately now she has received the news. Can't find the location of Lulan, third case cage, Ebizo. They are all out of touch. What? How can they be out of touch? Aren't you very clear about the location of Lulan? Why can't you find it? Why can't you find it? Chiyo, a middle-aged woman, was completely broken and shouted wildly in the camp. These days, the production of clay puppets has been cut off, making the war on the front line gradually at a disadvantage. As the commander-in-chief, the pressure she is under can be imagined. And after just a few days, she actually waited for this news. How could Chiyo accept this? The leader of Sunagakure, her brother, and a group of elite ninjas were all missing. This was simply digging up the roots of Sunagakure. Chiyo had already thought of the worst outcome in her mind, that is, they were all dead. But she didn't want to believe it, and she didn't want to believe it. Konoha's White Fang killed Scorpion's parents, and now her brother has no news. This is also an unprecedented psychological blow to her. Investigate. Keep investigating. At least get me some information back. Also investigate Uchiha Zan's movements, he must have gone to Lulan. Chiyo screamed like crazy, ordering Suna Anbu in front of her to investigate. She had already thought that this might be Uchiha Zan's doing, but he had to find out clearly before planning the next countermeasures. Chiyo's madness and Sand Shinobi's resistance finally ended with the return of Uchiha Zan. After the news that Uchiha Zan returned to the front camp, Chiyo realized that everything was irreversible. She had visited the battlefield to investigate the news that Uchiha Zan had killed thousands of Sand Shinobi with a lightning style. The lingering smell of blood and burnt odor on the dark ground moved her. After the supply of clay puppets was stopped a few days ago, Sand Shinobi's front line had retreated again and again. Chiyo, who knew that Sunagakure was no match for Konoha, immediately organized the surrender. One of the surrender conditions proposed by Chiyo was to know the news of the disappearance of the third case cage and her brother, as well as a group of high-level officials and Sand Shinobi. As for the information about the Lulan dragon vein, Chiyo had no intention of revealing it. After hearing this condition, Hitaki Sakumo, as the commander of the front line, also came to ask Uchiha Zan. To be honest, he was also curious about what Uchiha Zan did behind Sand Shinobi. Did you make a fuss and wipe out Sunagakure? Third case cage, Ebizo, so many people disappeared, they must be dead. Uchiha Zan just smiled at Hitaki Sakumo's curiosity. I just went to the rear of Sand Shinobi and destroyed their puppet production line. I don't know anything else. I can tell you, Commander Hitaki, about what I saw and heard in the desert. Seeing that Uchiha Zan was like a piece of meat on a rolling knife, Hitaki Yinmao no longer had the idea of asking him. If the third Hokage had any questions later, let them ask Uchiha Zan anyway. He didn't dare to use this as an excuse to accuse Uchiha Zan of knowing the truth but not reporting it and disobeying military orders. In this battle, Uchiha Zan was an absolute hero, and the Flag Master Yinmao believed that he, his student teacher, could not compare to him. Uchiha Zan, who was free, looked meaningfully at the Uchiha Toyama faction in the camp. The battle with Sand Shinobi is over, and what remains is nothing more than frictions with Rock Shinobi, Cloud Shinobi, those guys, big and small. The real fight may have to wait until the accumulated contradictions of the Third World War are completely erupted. Konaha is now in a strong momentum, and it is estimated that few people dare to come and offend. The Uchiha clan should also elect a clan leader, and Uchiha Toyama, Fugaku and others should also be dealt with. Uchiha Zan was thinking in his heart, and he had the idea of killing them in his heart. Now, except for him, according to Uchiha Zan Shinji, there are actually only 2 ninjas of Mangekyo Sharingan in the Uchiha clan. One is Uchiha Toyama, and the other is Shinji's grandfather himself. Both of them came out of the First World War, and it was the separation of life and death in the war that opened the Mangekyo. As for whether this war will cause some Uchiha members to open Mangekyo, it is unknown. One thing is certain, after the war, the Uchiha clan suffered heavy casualties. But the members of the Uchiha clan who open their eyes will definitely show a blowout. At that time, the Uchiha clan will be at its peak, and I must seize this opportunity. A strong Uchiha in my hands will be a great help. And Uchiha Fugaku and his group who noticed Uchiha Zan's sight felt like a huge rock was pressing on their hearts. Especially Uchiha Fugaku, his body trembled instinctively, fearing Uchiha Zan not far away. Seeing his son's embarrassment, Uchiha Fugaku was furious. The incompetence of the 2 of them also made the members of the second batch of Uchiha faction worship Uchiha Zan. Worship and follow the strong, this is the nature engraved in the genes. And soon after Uchiha Zan returned, the news came from the rear that the Uchiha clan was officially preparing to move back to the center of Konaha. For hundreds of Uchiha members, this was to wash away the original shame. They should also attribute the credit for this event to Uchiha Zan. As for Uchiha Toyama and Fugaku, except for a very small number of members who still follow and recognize them, a large part of the rest have different ideas. And Uchiha Zan did not pay attention to Uchiha Toyama and them, he did not need to care about a few future dead people. Even if Uchiha Toyama has Mangekyo Sharingan, even if Susanoo is opened, it is only a strong level in cage level. He does not need to spend much effort to suppress and kill such an existence. Now the only existence that Uchiha Zan fears is Uchiha Madara, who is still silently watching the ninja world and the completely unpredictable Sage of 6 Paths. But Uchiha Zan is just afraid. The evolution of magnet style and his own strength make him not need to do anything because of their existence. If Uchiha Madara sets his sights on him, Uchiha Zan also wants to give him an unexpected surprise. In the eyes of everyone, he has always been good at using lightning style. Other things, they are not exposed. As for facing Sage of 6 Paths, Uchiha Zan really doesn't have much strategy, he can only work hard to improve his strength. At this time, Uchiha Madara is really talking to White Zetsu about Uchiha Zan. In the dark cave, Uchiha Madara, who was sitting deep in the cave, opened his eyes. A pair of 3 Tomo Sharingan appeared on his old face. After transplanting his Rinnegan to Nagato and planning the future Munai plan, he asked White Zetsu to bring several Uchiha members' Sharingan to install. In any case, it is normal for several Uchiha members to disappear in the war. Like a puddle of mud, White Zetsu stretched out his body from the stone wall and looked at Uchiha Madara with a smile. Madara-sama, Konaha's battle with Sand Shinobi is over. As you expected, Uchiha Zan's arrival ended their battle. I didn't expect that his victory over Hanzo of the Salamander was not a coincidence. Madara-sama, are you going to make him a substitute? Facing White Zetsu's words, Uchiha Madara's expression did not change, and he always looked forward. In fact, after Uchiha Zan defeated Hanzo of the Salamander and became famous in the ninja world, he has been paying attention to him. At the age of 12, he is so close to Hashirama's granddaughter. He is much stronger than me at the same age. Has he opened Mangekyo? Uchiha Madara muttered to himself, and then suddenly asked a question. White Zetsu thought for a while, shook his head and said, there is no news that Uchiha Zan has opened Mangekyo. He should only have 3 Tomo Sharingan. Hearing this, Uchiha Madara was silent for a moment. His lifespan is not really at the point of a candle in the wind, and he has time to wait. There is no need to rush Uchiha Madara, and finally ordered, keep paying attention to Uchiha Zan and see what he does next. Yes, Lord Madara. White Zetsu was not vague, and immediately merged into the earth, and swam towards the direction of the shy camp with the cricket technique. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.